We are live.
Yes.
We are live and we are podcasting. This is a podcast. Welcome to the For We Are Many podcast. We are streaming live for your convenience and pleasure. My name is Dean. I am the person who is speaking right now. Rob?
Well, my name's Rob. I'm one of the many. We have a lot to talk about tonight, honestly. So I guess we'll just scurry right through this. Don, you're next.
Hello, my name is Don Good News Hughes, and I would like to say congratulations. You've made it. You survived today. A lot of people can't say that, be it due to COVID or mental health problems or regular health problems or what have you. A lot of people can't say that, and I'm proud of you for surviving. That's my good news today. I also have another piece of good news. Rob, if you could pull up these two slides, I'd like to leave them up for 30 seconds, long enough for people to write down these numbers. If you are in a place where you feel hopeless right now, I'm going to put up these two slides. There are a couple places you can call. The first one, when Rob finds it, is going to be the suicide prevention help hotline.
Oh, actually, you're going to have to read off that number. I didn't make that slide. I thought you were talking about the mutual aid groups.
Okay. I apologize. Let me pull it up on my phone real quick. I have that number for you. I've dealt with these people recently and can, speaking from experience, tell you that they do genuinely want to help. The number for the suicide prevention hotline is as follows. 1-800-273-TALK. The next hotline I'm going to tell you to get a hold of, if you're one of my brothers and sisters in arms from the military, and you are struggling right now, please reach out to the Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. Press 1. They are more than willing to help you. They will get the ball rolling on whatever you need. It'll take time, but it is worth it. Next.
So I think the first thing that we need to discuss.
I'd like to introduce myself.
Oh shit, my bad.
Yeah, Austin. Don't skip Austin just because I got deep, man.
Hi, I'm Austin. Austin the Radical Patton. I changed my middle name. I'm running for Congress in 2024 in Pennsylvania. It's for the people, because that's who matters. And that's all that matters, is the people. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
That leaves Trisha.
Hey, what's up? I'm
being invaded.
I'm not running for any offices, but I definitely run my mouth about the way shit should be changed in most of them, because like you said, Austin, it's about the people, and right now our government is not about by or for the people, it's for the corporations, and that needs to change.
Well said.
Thank you. Short rant.
All right, so actually, I don't even care about sharing our Patreon right now.
That's good. Just rock on.
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is the situation in Texas. We're going to talk more in depth about what is actually going down there later in the segment. but I wanted to start this off by pointing out this list of organizations that are already mobilized on the ground in Texas that are helping the people in need directly. That being said, if anyone listening needs immediate help now, contact crowdresourcerescue.com. Or if you want to volunteer to help rescue people, contact crowdsourcerescue.com. And we were hoping to have somebody from one of these groups on here tonight. I understand that they're very, very busy right now. I did have a chance to talk to a couple of people that are involved in these groups, and they're just thankful that people are willing to help out. On this list, it's also important to note that the Elm Fort John Brown Gun Club and the Socialist Rifle Association of Dallas-Fort Worth both mobilized with basically no notice at all as mutual aid groups. And I think that says a lot about the left.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words.
Right. So I will bring that up later. Again, probably multiple times.
I think it
We
says a
also
lot about the
have
government too.
we also have a link that is going to be dropped in the comments for a Google document that has more mutual aid help. It has links for like cold weather survival resources, pretty much. And I think that we should do whatever we can to get that information to the people on the ground in Texas that need it. So, yeah. Another thing that I wanted to talk about early in the stream, ultimately, is that natural gas lines froze. The governor has been talking about how the Green New Deal, which is nowhere close to being enacted, is somehow responsible for the power outages in Texas. But so basically, critics of wind power were quick to focus on the turbines that went offline. In winter, it generally supplies wind, that is, generally supplies about a quarter of the state's electricity, and nearly half of that capacity shut down due to ice-coated turbine blades. But the question is not whether wind power is the problem, when natural gas plants were the biggest cause of the power shortfall. The state's grid operator said February 15th that about 34 gigawatts of power were offline. But of that, only about 4 gigawatts was due to problem with wind turbines.
Well, and a lot of that comes down to the maintenance stuff that we were talking about earlier, like how you're saying they don't use the blades that are heated, nor did they go out there and de-ice them, which is something that they were made aware of from people in northern regions, like around here, that use windmills year round. You have to de-ice them if you get hit with an ice storm. They were
Russians
prepared to do that
mine
because
the Russians
Go
mine
ahead, Dan.
Bitcoin. The Russians mine Bitcoin from wind turbines that are in the Arctic Circle. They bought the cold weather ones, so they work when it's cold. These guys bought the warm weather wind turbines and they're frozen. Fuck these guys. I'm sorry. I'm not saying fuck Texas. I'm just saying you
fuck their officials.
privatize, huh? Yes.
Their officials that
correct.
fucked up here.
Correct. When you privatize life savings, infrastructure, and services, people will die. That's all there is to it.
Yep. This is something that should be seized as a public service.
We're going to be talking about that later too. Black Lives Matter organizer turned politician Cori Bush is pushing for exactly that, and I am 110% on board with that.
That's what the fuck's up. Because there's no reason why basic utilities that are needed for survival should be privatized and profited from. This is something that the entire public deserves access to. We literally pay for these grids. We should own them.
You should own your water. You should own your internet. You should own the ambulances and the fire trucks and the cops and everything.
Precisely. Yeah.
And the fact that we don't is just, I don't even have words. So I'll shut up.
A disgrace.
So I finally got it done. I posted in the comments that document I was talking about.
The cold
mutual
weather.
aid. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I figure we might as well wrap up mutual aid by talking about the fact that we are about a week into planning our mutual aid group.
Real quick. Ron Stefanski posted in the comments saying, despite previous events in 1989 and 2011, when Texas had similar weather events, Texas took no precautions to harden their power grid.
Right. There is a lot that Texas did wrong in this, and honestly, it's kind of sprinkled along 3 different sections tonight. So we will be talking about that a lot, and I'm glad that he brought that up. I hope that a lot of people realize that the failure of elected officials and the failure of energy officials led to what happened.
Hey, got Ted Cruz vacation.
Hey.
We'll be talking about that too. In breaking news, Ted Cruz is still a piece of shit. Awkward silence.
That's not breaking news.
Yeah, you're right.
He's dead behind the eyes.
The floor is yours,
Osama just messaged
Commandant.
He's still out fighting the snow, so he probably won't be able to join us tonight.
That's
already
fair.
Out there plowing. Right. I had to wrap this up. But
thank you for sharing, Natalie. I just saw that. That's what we've been focused on a lot today too, is trying to spread as much as possible. So to wrap up this segment, we have a piece about sustainability. And
do you have something to share?
What?
Do you have something you're sharing, screen wise?
No.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
To wrap up this segment, we have a piece about hemp batteries being more efficient than lithium or graphene batteries. Robert Murray Smith of FWG Limited in Kent observed a volts by amps curve of both the hemp and lithium batteries and found that the power underneath the hemp cell was a value of 31, while that of the lithium cell contained a value of just 4. In 2014, scientists in the United States found that waste fibers from hemp crops can be transformed into ultra-fast capacitors that are better than graphene. Graphene, for those that don't know, is a synthetic carbon material lighter than foil, but yet bulletproof. It is prohibitively expensive to make. So the hemp version is not just superior, but it costs 1/1000th of the price. Dr. David Mitland of Clarkson University in New York said, "People ask me why hemp? I say, why not? We're making graphene-like materials for 1/1000th of the price, and we're doing it with waste." Mitland says that you can do really interesting things with bio-waste. With banana peels, for example, you can turn them into a dense block of carbon. We call it pseudographite, and that's great for sodium-ion batteries. But if you look at hemp fiber, its structure is the opposite. It makes sheets with high surface area, and that's very conducive to supercapacitors.
right, so that means they're that much more capable of storing that much more energy and would probably last a lot longer than the batteries we're using right now too. This is something we need to see developed for everything from your home, your car, you name it, get off grid.
Yeah. Or at least, restructure the grid to have hemp battery storage. That's what I would say.
Right. For everybody who's putting solar panels on your house, use these for your battery bank, be much more efficient.
I don't know why I put this up already. Did anybody else have anything to say on that? I'm sorry.
I really wish I would have watched that YouTube video sent to the group chat, because I really want to show people the
Drop it in the comments, brother.
the actual
Yeah.
let me just get that link out of the group chat, and I'll drop it in the comments.
I just want to say, go hemp, go marijuana.
Fucking
Yeah. So I'm going to refer to him as the name I know him by, but Lansing says in the comments that hemp is the way to go.
It truly is. I mean, think about it. From start to finish, the crop itself is cleaning the air, it's cleaning the soil, it's producing something that we can use across the board, whether it be for paper products, plastic products, batteries, food.
Medicine.
Medicine, yes. But that's the one facet that everybody's aware of. But there's so many other things that we can do with this crop that it's beautiful from start to finish. And when you're using even the waste products that are left over from all those other things to produce the batteries, like, come on now. Why are we not? We need to push this forward. This needs to be more of a thing. Get away from the ways that we have produced things that are not kind to the environment, because this is a way that is very kind to the environment. There's better ways of doing things. Many of them start with hemp.
I just wanted to run through these mutual aid groups one more time. That way, if anybody that is watching has some funds that they would like to donate to any of these organizations, that they have a way to do so.
Right. We've got people dying down there because they're ill-equipped for this type of weather condition. They need help. They need food.
Lansing also said, hell, Henry Ford made a Model A or T, it was T, a Model T out of hemp, and it's way stronger than steel. He literally drove that motherfucker around, driving it on hemp biofuel, mind you, and swinging an axe at it to show how strong the body was, and it didn't even leave a fucking dent.
What, he couldn't sell it to Hitler, so he quit? Lame.
Well, I mean, he couldn't sell it to Big Oil. So, I mean,
Right.
maybe not Hitler directly, but basically, yes.
Kind of.
I see. So, yep.
So now we can move on to the Black History section. And this week, I almost said this month, this is Black History Month. This week, there was a St. Louis settlement for $5 million, paying out to a black officer who was assaulted by white officers in 2017 while working undercover at an anti-police brutality protest. The man's name is Luther Hall. He was thrown to the ground, kicked and beaten with a baton, leaving him severely injured. They filed the lawsuit in 2019, and Hall says that the white officers tried to cover up the assault, which is completely unsurprising. At least 4 officers involved in the attack were federally indicted in 2018. But the city of St. Louis is paying out a $5 million settlement to Luther Hall. So,
setting an example of what needs to be done with everybody else who has ever been assaulted due to their race by police, especially when you're out there protesting police violence and get met with more of it. No, honestly, these settlements need to be coming out of those cops' paychecks.
Agreed. Agreed. Natalie says, Austin, wishing you success in running for Congress. What state are you in? Sorry, I was multitasking when you had mentioned that and I didn't catch the state.
I'm running in Pennsylvania's 16th district. And thank you, Natalie. I appreciate that.
And then the actual Black History part of the Black History segment today, I wanted to talk about Seneca Village, which was located right where Central Park is today, the west side of Central Park. Seneca Village was a 19th century settlement of mostly African American landowners in the borough of Manhattan in New York City, within what would become present-day Central Park. The settlement was located on about 5 acres near the Upper West Side neighborhood, approximately bounded by Central Park's west and the paths of 82nd Street, 89th Street, and 7th Avenue, had they been constructed through the park. Seneca Village was founded in 1825 by free Black Americans, a first such community in the city. At its peak, the community had 264 residents, 3 churches, a school, and 2 cemeteries. Seneca Village existed until 1857, when, through eminent domain, the villagers and other settlers in the area were ordered to leave and their houses were torn down for the construction of Central Park. Several vestiges of Seneca Village's existence have been found over the years, including 2 graves and a burial plot. The settlement was largely forgotten until the publication of Roy Rosenzweig, I have probably butchered that, and Elizabeth Blackmar's book, The Park and the People, A History of Central Park in 1992. This should be something that is taught in fucking middle school in every school in the United States.
Right. One more example of where we fucked up. You know, like this was allowed to happen because it was another Black community that was thriving. And well, there's a few other examples we've seen throughout history, you know, where, at least in this country, when Black communities start to thrive like that and they're doing very well, they get attacked by surrounding white communities. I'd have to pull it up now because I can't recall, but there was one town of similar, you know, circumstance where our own military went in and slaughtered people. This is something that people need to be aware of so that you can see what precisely needs to still change when it comes to people's frames of mind. If we don't learn our history, how are we going to learn those lessons?
Yeah, exactly. And check this out, just to put in perspective how long of a time that it wasn't even talked about at all. The Seneca Village Project was formed in 1998 to raise awareness of the village, and several archaeological digs have been conducted. In 2001, a historical plaque was unveiled commemorating the site where Seneca Village once stood. So after, I mean, from 1857 to 1998, we didn't talk about it at all. And then in 2001, they got a plaque.
Right.
Where are they in the history books?
Right.
Nowhere that
Not
I know
because
of.
history is whitewashed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm at a disadvantage when it comes to American history because I always found medieval and later history far more appealing, but I, with my public education, have no idea what you're talking about. Never heard of it before.
Right, and that's why we're talking about it. Lansing said, the Trail of Tears isn't taught anymore in school. I know it's not Black history, but still just another example. And you're absolutely right. And I think that the liberation struggles of the Black and indigenous peoples go hand in hand, ultimately. Awkward silence.
Sorry,
Well,
I'm realizing how
Really?
much I look like the FBI guy that's probably listening to this.
You just need a suit jacket on, be good to go.
We got him. The password's swordfish. It's always swordfish.
Shit. But speaking of medieval history, there was an article that I'd popped in here, or a couple of them. One of them showing that there were actually people of color in, medieval Europe, because that's one thing that we often see white supremacists trying to claim like Europe was all white back then. No, the fuck it wasn't. And people, even when making history books, have cropped out parts of artwork to cut out the people of color and only be showing the white people who are in those paintings and things like that, where they're literally editing history. And this site was started by someone who was working in a history department in like disabled services. And they noticed that all of these materials that professors were requesting were to be redacted of all history pertaining to people of color, and probably didn't realize they were speaking to them. Like, okay, no, how about we highlight this? So they started this site to be able to show all these pieces of artwork in their entirety and be able to see that. And let me see, is anybody in the document on their screen? I have the presentation separately on my phone to show that link, to show some of that artwork that they put together.
I got you.
It was a beautiful collection. Please and thank you.
I have to move the box that has our pictures in it out of the way.
You're a little more tech savvy than I am. Yeah, the site is called Medieval POC, Medieval People of Color. And it's beautiful, the depth that they go into with all of the artwork. This article only shows a few of those pieces.
Yeah, I was only seeing two really, but yeah, it is kind of astonishing that anybody felt it necessary to try to suppress that.
Right. I mean, even down to professors telling them that they flat out wanted to skip over entire sections of the textbooks that were pertaining to world history in Africa and Asia, because they just didn't find it relevant. And it's like, why the fuck are we even allowing this? If you're teaching a world history class in a university, you need to be teaching all of world history, not just white history, not Eurocentric history.
That I think is part of the reason that we don't really realize how much people actually traveled around and could travel around back in like medieval times and Renaissance times. And even before that, the Chinese have written records talking about their trips to Rome and their ambassadors going to Rome to meet Caesar.
The Silk Road. How many merchants, thousands, millions maybe of merchants traveled those roads regularly to make trade with other civilizations,
Yeah, I believe the Silk Road ran over 1,000 miles long.
It was, I know that part of it runs through northern Afghanistan. I learned that before I got stationed over there for a year. Deployed over there, not stationed. Nobody is stationed in Afghanistan. You get deployed and then you come back. Anyway, I feel like we're getting bogged down in that subject.
So Lansing said, "Thank you for calling my ancestors indigenous people." And I just want to say there's no need to thank me. That's who they are.
Right.
Natalie said, "We've had many truths hidden or omitted from U.S. history in our education." Yes, we have. It's quite a negative talking point for the Republican Party that college professors are now teaching about socialism and communism. And see, here's the thing, is that shouldn't even be a controversial thing. We are, whether we want to be or not, we are exposed to capitalist or neoliberal ideology every day. Why shouldn't we learn that there's something else?
Right.
And then,
You're
and then
not
if we
getting
get
a
into the
well-rounded
philosophy
education if you're
aspect
not
of
being
it,
taught
there's
about all of it.
absolutely no reason to omit it.
Right. That it's eradicating the quote unquote well-rounded education. It's not well-rounded if you're not learning all of it and everything encompassed by that subject, not just what this individual wants to focus on or this society wants to focus on. And I think a lot of that comes down to fear of exposing people to other ideologies. Look at right now, we've got so many people on the conservative side of things literally condemning education because they're like, oh, you go to college and come out liberals. Well, gee, I fucking wonder why when you have to, go and pay for an education at a place that is liberal leaning to even start to discover things like Marx. And you get exposed to more than you did during your K-12 education and go, wait a minute, there's more to this than just the capitalist that we were taught. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That eye-opening, people are going to change their minds when they're presented with new evidence and new ideas. They're going to go, wait a minute, and they're going to grow from that. And that's something that we need exposure to all throughout our lives of there are many options here. There are so many things in history that we can learn from and grow from and maybe do a little better than others did. We could definitely do better than we are right now.
Ron said, face it, they teach the history of white supremacy. It's got to stop. Thank you for calling it like it is, Ron. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that one piece at a time, that's what we're trying to dismantle. But it's been a generational fight already, and I have a lot of hope that Gen Z are going to be the ones to really smash it.
I'd like to help.
Oh, well, yeah, same. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have some comrades among other generations. I think that they're going to be the generation that finally says, no, enough is enough.
Right. They're already not having people shit when it comes to discrimination, whether it be due to race, gender, any of it. They're fired up, and I like seeing that. We need to invoke some real fucking change.
Absolutely agreed. All right, so the next topic is COVID-19. It's a recurring topic, obviously. It's still here. It's still not going anywhere. Although, while this loads, I do believe that we are still coming out of the second wave. Dean usually does most of the talking about COVID, so if you got anything to say.
Yeah, I do. Couple of things. The Pfizer vaccine has begun trials for pregnant women, so that's good news. There has been a UK variant found in Flint. That's not good news. Because we all know where there's one, there's probably about 15. The controversy about how deaths are being counted is still still going on. I mean, there's still people that are disputing. There's still people that are lying, that are saying if I shoot a burglar in my house who dies in my home and I drag him to the morgue, they're going to say it's a COVID death. That's literally not true. I'll take advantage of this time to kind of get on my small soapbox, whereby I give folks my view of what we can come to expect in the next 90 to 100 days or so, 120 days. I do think the UK variant is going to become a significant problem for us. as it has in other countries. I do think we'll see an early third wave. I think under normal circumstances, statistically, all the models, even ones that I helped to create, and the prediction models, which I did create, are would indicate that we were looking at a third wave in the back half of summer and leading up to fall. And I believe that we may now be looking at a third wave as early as May or June, whereby we'll see that curve start to bend upwards again. And God, I hope I'm wrong. You know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong, but I think what's coming, because we are in a runaway state. We're here's my analogy, and if those of you have heard this for me, my comrades and colleagues have heard me say this before. This is like, imagine if you were a uh, in the North Pole in your underwear, right? And you're walking through whiteout conditions, and you're mostly naked. You have no water and you have no food. You're not going to last long. But mercifully, you find a cabin, and the cabin has food and it has water. You can or wood, and you can melt snow perhaps for water. Uh, but you have some respite, right? Still have no clothes, but at least you have shelter, and you have heat, and you have food. Eventually, your water and your food and your wood will run out, and you will have to go back out in the cold in your underwear. And that is literally the protection that lockdowns have provided for us. Right now, there there really isn't anything that I think that we can do as a society right now to help limit it, other than the safety precautions that we're already taking to various degrees. Your masks, your double mask, your triple mask, whatever you have to do to be comfortable. You this thing's not just out of control. It's in a run. We're in a runaway situation. That's why we're 2x, 3x the world in cases and deaths. If I'm wrong, I would be more than happy to be wrong. I will come back here and publicly apologize for misleading you. However, if I'm right, our third wave, I think, will tower over what we've already seen. So
Fucking
right about the
scary when we've
time
already been.
we're opening up, you're seeing it happen. I'm not making this up. Schools are opening up, sports are opening up, restaurants are opening up. It'll be venues for sporting. It'll be theaters. Uh, I'm rather sure that everywhere you've seen, and some of you work in these places, you have to deal with these people in this situation. And it's to a large extent against your will. Nobody's following the 25% rulings that are seen as common. I can't believe they are. Right. And you're going to see warm weather come. You're going to see the sun part. You're going to see tulips arise. And you're going to start thinking, hey, this isn't bad. I can kind of see, wow, it feels great to get back to normal. And you're going to start to think it's over. And it will not be.
Well, the historical record shows that that's exactly what happened in 1918.
There was a third wave then. There was a fourth wave, and there's evidence that there was a fifth wave. The third wave was the most deadly for that particular situation, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of that came down to the fact that everybody got complacent.
They did. And complacent and just stir crazy. Hey, you know what? When they came out of it, they had enormous economic prosperity. That is the very definition of the Roaring Twenties. I do believe that we will have another Roaring Twenties, but I think for myself, my immediate family and friends, the people on this program, and the people listening, this is a human to human contact, not even physical. It's an airborne pathogen that has a very high mortality rate. It's spread by human beings. The only logical way to avoid this is to avoid human beings. Your government will not help you. Your employer will not help you. Only you. We are literally on our own. And I'm not even that Texas mayor. I'm just some shithead you're listening to in a stream. You are on your own. I'm not saying only the strong will survive. I'm saying only people who stay away from other people will survive. Just don't get sick. That's all I can tell you. Get your vaccine. Don't question whether or not it's this or that, or it's got the 5G chip implanted into your brain, or whether Bill Gates is using it as a mind control device.
Do we still have that diagram for the 5G chip?
I do. Isn't that funny? The risk is not worth the reward for the avoidance. Some of you listening may have the predilection to avoid vaccines. That is, of course, your personal decision. And none of us would infringe upon your right to make a personal decision. However, you have to weigh the cost of your individual sovereignty versus the lives of the people around you. If you're not willing to sacrifice their lives to force them into compliance with your ideology, then morally it's your obligation to find and get a vaccine. And I can make a stronger case for that if you wish, but I think I probably said enough.
I think that was pretty well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Moving on to the next section. This is going to be a real short section. I just wanted to take this opportunity to, that's obviously what we called this section. I just wanted to take an opportunity to show you this list of traitors. I know I showed it on Monday, but here it is again.
Did you?
Right, just in case you missed this, if these are your representatives, you need to vote them the fuck out.
Did you grab the one that I put into the messenger that had the ones that are up for election in 2022?
No, I did not. I didn't realize that you had actually sent it. I know we talked about it. I didn't realize that you had actually sent it.
There's a learning curve, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. We're figuring it out still. Bear with us.
Yeah, I think we're doing fine.
Natalie said, "I'm afraid Dean is going to be right on this. In many states, in South African variant will be the dominant strain, and then there will be more variants that may not be that may be resistant to the vaccine. The more that we get vaccinated, the higher chance we can fight it." And again, well said.
Yep, agreed. Thank you. Well said.
So that was that whole section. And Trisha, can you drop that in the comments?
Give me just a moment, and I will do just that.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
It's coming in the comments.
I didn't mean to capture the entire segment, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like an obligation to take up the message.
No, you're fine, Dean. I generally try to give you that segment because you know a hell of a lot more than the rest of us do, I think. Okay, so the next segment is major political happenings, and then followed by international political happenings. The first thing that we got to talk about here is Senator Ted Cruz being a piece of shit. Senator Ted Cruz and his family flew to Cancun, Mexico. He confirmed in a statement to CNN, as a winter disaster in his home state left millions without power or water. And this is a quote: "With school canceled for the week, our girls asked us to take a trip with friends. Wanting to be a good dad, I flew down with them last night, and I'm flying back this afternoon.
I knew
My
he would
staff
spin it
and
that
I-
way. That son of a bitch. That's why he
Remember,
had those huge suitcases he was dragging through the airport, because he was just going for overnight.
Yeah.
remember,
he-
just because he represents poor people doesn't mean he's one of the poor's and has to deal with that.
Yeah.
He didn't have to pay for that travel, bro. That was all 100% Texas taxpayer funded.
Oh, I guarantee it. That wasn't even the end of the quote, though. It gets better. Well, not really, but this motherfucker. My staff and I are in constant communication with state and local leaders to get to the bottom of what happened in Texas. We want our power back, our water on, and our homes warm. My team and I will continue using all our resources to keep Texans informed and safe.
I hope nobody buys that.
I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. Nobody should buy this. He's been a piece of shit for a very long time. We all know that he doesn't have a soul.
Look in his eyes, dude.
A source familiar with the situation told CNN that some of the senator's senior aides did not know he flew down to Mexico until the pictures appeared on social media.
Hey, here, everyone within range of my voice, listen very carefully to me, what I'm about to say. Pay particular attention if you're planning to travel to Texas or become a citizen of the sovereign nation of Texas. This is the best Ted Cruz will ever be. This moment is the shining moment. This is the best he's capable of being as a human person. So
The trip was immediately criticized, included by Texas State Representative Gene Wu, a Democrat representing Southwest Houston, who tweeted a photo of Cruz boarding his flight, saying Cruz was flying south while the state was freezing to death and having to boil water. There's nothing even remotely exaggerative about that statement. The death toll north of
the
20.
reason we're not seeing pictures and videos of of people finding their neighbors frozen and dead is because they can't charge their fucking phones. Those will emerge. And I hope this is the moment. I hope this is the shining moment. Sometimes these things can run away, right? Like a flash mob that shows up in the Capitol building. Perhaps this is the thing that evicts him from his seat. I realize he just won it and he's got 4 years, and we'll be lucky if people remember this in 4 weeks. However, you never know. This might be the wildfire event that once the lights come on and the heaters start up again, they might mobilize and recall him. Who knows?
So the second story under major political happenings is one I've personally been looking forward to. Cori Bush, who I mentioned earlier as being the Black Lives Matter organizer turned politician, called for utilities and other basic services to be transformed into public goods on Wednesday. Basically, it was as a response to the situation in Texas, which shows the exact dangers of privatization. But she tweeted, I should say, I've had to make decisions about keeping food on the table or paying the power bill. So many families are having to decide about whether to go hungry or go without heat. The first-term Democratic lawmaker from Missouri tweeted, corporations should not be allowed to profit off our suffering. Utilities need to be public good. Ms. Bush followed that post with one listing healthcare, housing, food, clean water, electricity, and internet access as necessities that must be guaranteed to all. And all I can say to that is preach.
Honestly, yeah. Without water, human life on this planet simply does not exist. Without some sort of food source, something to fuel us, we can't go on. Both of those things should be top priority to be human rights, honestly. You should have the right to have access to clean water, have access to food, not have to worry about feeding yourself where you're going to get your water from.
I got a
And in
story
this
about
day-
water, but please go continue.
And in this day and age, when the internet is so completely tied to everything we do, internet should be a human right as well, or access to the internet, I should say.
Publicly owned service, not privatized for profit.
She seems very different than most people in Congress right now. Cori Bush does. She actually seems like she cares and she's fighting for people and she's willing to stand up to a lot of other politicians that don't care and are not fighting for the people. So I give her kudos for that. And I thank you, Cori Bush, for standing up for the people.
Agree.
I think that the reason that she is different is because she's not a politician. She's an activist.
Yes, that exactly is it. She
Pardon
has
me.
fought for the people.
And Lansing said in the comments, don't we have a document stating that life and liberty are human rights? Yes, we do, but unfortunately we've forgotten what life and liberty entail. I think that we need a second Bill of Rights as proposed by FDR in the 40s and as proposed by the Green Party since their existence, basically. We need an economic Bill of Rights.
Yeah, Bill of Rights for the people.
Winter Storm Uri has created chaos across the state of Texas and across the lower Mississippi Valley, with rolling outages in some areas and total power cuts in others. When we say total, though, we of course are not referring to the downtown districts where all the businesses with money are, because God knows we got to keep those empty fucking buildings heated so nothing gets damaged there.
Right.
The poor
Not even bother to
freezing
open them up
death.
for the public to come and warm up.
Absolutely. The power crisis has revealed deep-rooted problems with electricity infrastructure and specific to Texas, a statewide market that puts revenue ahead of a robust distribution network. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, is responsible for operating the power grid across most of the state, serving 26 million customers. Record-breaking demand meant power generation equipment failures, leading to a disaster for many of the state's residents.
I've heard a lot of people say a lot of mean and evil and however you want to put it, things about Texans and how if they didn't vote because they didn't vote for Democrat, that this is what they deserve. That is very
No.
uncalled for. And you definitely need to reevaluate yourself as a human being if you're saying or thinking those thoughts.
No one deserves to freeze to death. No one deserves to have to sit in their home with their children and know that they don't have any power, they don't have any heat, and they have no idea how they're going to keep their family alive through the night. No one.
Right. Nobody deserves that. I agree. And also, like, it's important to note that, yes, they are a red state, but the elections are notoriously rigged there. Every election, they're closing down more and more and more and more and more polling locations in primarily Black or primarily Latino communities. Every election, this happens.
Yeah.
Just because the state looks red on a map doesn't mean it really is. And actually, I've found out over the last couple of days, there's a lot of fucking comrades there.
Yeah, and how many people there don't vote because they know that their government is corrupt, so they don't even try to participate.
Right.
The majority of the working class, for one. The majority of the working poor. The majority of people of color, minorities, women especially.
Because when you're not represented, why should you
Why
vote?
participate?
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
We see that we're well acquainted with that phenomenon in Flint.
I see it a lot with people my age. I'm turning 30 in April, and my generation all pretty much accepts that, you know, our vote doesn't count. So a lot of them just don't vote.
It shouldn't matter whether you vote or not.
It
No offense. I'm just saying it's not a virtue that people, oh, hey, I participated in democracy. I got a sticker. You should be represented regardless of that. And I think that the assumption that people who don't participate in democracy by not voting deserve the outcome that they get is the message that I think Austin is trying to say. Maybe I don't want to speak for you, Austin, but I think it's important. This is a particularly important topic.
Yeah, everybody should be represented. It doesn't matter if you vote or not. It doesn't matter your beliefs. As
Right.
a human being, you have a right to, like we were just talking about, these inalienable rights, food, water, healthcare. We all deserve these things. We deserve to be taken care of. And if our government isn't going to do it, we need to start doing it. So, I mean, we should definitely try to force our government to do it. We should hold every representative accountable for the decisions they make, the votes that they make. No matter if you voted or not, you have a right to push a politician in the direction that is for humans, that is for taking care of humans.
Yeah. Well said.
very well said. And if anybody, I know that the argument against that is always, well, I don't want to pay for somebody else's health care. Why should I have to pay for this? Why should I have to pay for that? Why should you have to pay for a multi-million-dollar coffee cup for the fucking Air Force? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Why should you, who goes to work 40 hours, 50 hours, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, have to pay for private trips to Mar-a-Lago or golf outings with the boys? Why should you have to pay for any of it? Why should any of that go for them when it should pay for your care?
Three martini lunches. That's what they got in the last stimulus. That's what passed. They're allowed to write off 3 martini lunches now. Not only that, we pay for so much. We pay for banks to be bailed out. We pay for these large companies to bail out. There is a saying that they're too large to fail. That's bullshit. We need to stop that. If you're going to fail, you're going to fail. Something else will rise in your place that hopefully will take more and better care of the people that they hire.
Hey,
While we're talking about seizing healthcare, housing, food, clean water, electricity, and internet access, we need to seize the financial systems.
Straight the fuck up.
Sorry if
been
that's a
taken
little too
advantage of by
controversial for the viewers, but I don't think that we're going to be able to take another route.
did I not promise you the $2,000? Is that not enough for you? And when you get that $1,600, I feel like you know it will significantly. We will deliver on our promise of $1,400.
Don't
Dean,
worry, you'll
you
get
could
your
be a
$1,000.
Democrat so fucking easy.
It's just ridiculous. This is what they do to us. This is how they think. Like the rich think that. I just saw an article that, oh, this money that we're going to get is going to last us until July or past July. Like,
yeah, I saw that too, because supposedly the average American who was short on bills in January was only short by $300. So,
yeah.
So you know, it's the most out of touch shit I've ever seen, man.
It
man.
either makes you angry or it makes you laugh. I mean, it makes you cry probably too. I mean, it's just the rich are just so out of touch with average Americans, and that's who runs the government is the rich. And not only does the rich run the government, but there's more millionaires in Congress and in the Senate than there is really compared to the population. So I mean, in a ratio that so it's just
We are
it's
not
ridiculous.
fucking represented. this this is a fundamental problem when it comes to even this happening in this country specifically when it was founded because of people being pissed off about taxation without representation. What the fuck do you think we have now when these people don't fucking represent us, our ideals, our views, or any of the things that we are actually expressing we need and want in our society? And they're going, but this motherfucker over here is a lobbyist for, X corporation, and they're cutting me a check to write bills that go against your fucking rights. Huh? Like, motherfucker, you forgot who you work for. The fact that they're even getting away with doing this is ludicrous. Why are we allowing this? We're allowing it to perpetuate where we are continuously not being represented. We need to repeal shit like corporate personhood. Corporations are not fucking people. We are people.
We're
We
over
haven't had a say.
we're over
over what?
40 plus thousand people die a year because they don't have health care. Now,
Right.
how can we? That's something that we should never be allowed. In my lifetime, over millions of people have died because they didn't have health care.
Right. That is death by capitalism.
How many of those people were young children who the same people that say we shouldn't have health care for all paid out of our taxes would fight tooth and nail to say, oh, they deserve a life as they're a child, as they're a baby inside a woman. But as soon as they're out and they're on terra firma, it doesn't matter.
So
I think
Right. They're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. They're
Yeah.
pro-controlling women's bodies. That's it. That's all that
Yeah.
fucking comes down to. And that's the evidence of it right there. They don't give a shit what happens to that kid once it's born. They just want to make sure that your body's held fucking hostage with you not having a choice over the matter, regardless of your circumstances.
right. Lansing said in the comment, actually, it's a quote from the Declaration of Independence. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. I 100% agree, and I just wish that the Constitution was anywhere near as revolutionary of a document as the Declaration of Independence was.
Right?
But I guess we should move on to international. Actually, hold on. Natalie says, it's sick that our country allows people to die and deny affordable health care. Affordable shouldn't even be a conversation. It should be publicly funded.
Right.
We're already
And
paying
to them-
taxes. Our taxes
Right.
should just pay for it.
Than what we need.
Hmm.
But as far as like people who contest that shit, it's amazing how only 32 out of the 33 fucking, developed, considered first world countries on this planet, only 32 of them have managed to make socialized healthcare work. Think about that one for a fucking minute. There's no reason why we can't. And the people who still try to, be naysayers about that need to do some research, because there's no fucking excuse for this being one of the wealthiest countries on the fucking planet, and we don't have basic protections for our people. Fuck.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, on to international news. Guinea has declared a new Ebola epidemic with its first cases since 2016. That's really sad more than anything. Dean, you tend to have more experience with these types of outbreaks.
Yeah.
So if you want to touch on this any. Feel free.
Yeah, that one's transmitted a little differently than COVID. Coronavirus is transmitted obviously through large droplets and fine mist, mostly airborne, which is pretty much worst case scenario. This guy Ebola, that's semen, blood, feces, vomit. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the quadruple threat to the party, but so it's very much like hepatitis in that respect. It's
Bodily fluids.
acutely sexually transmitted. Um, I guess there has been some evidence that it can be transmitted through large droplets. I'm not surprised it made a resurgence. There is some life cycle between animals and primates and humans, and uh, it's a motherfucker because it has, pardon my language, it has a very high mortality rate, as I remember. It's been a long time, and since we dealt with Ebola here, part of the reason why it didn't just spread through the entire country like wildfire, like COVID has, is because of the way it's transmitted. It's more difficult to transmit, mercifully. Um, but it lives on in the unfortunate in the bodies. You get it, you have a 50% chance of dying. If you have a comorbidity, if you're elderly or very young, that skyrockets to 90%. So that's a nasty fucker. And it's pretty much the last thing we need or anyone needs right now. So I am hopeful that those guys do know what they're doing. The- don't let racist thoughts creep in your head about a vision of Africa where lions run wild and people are very aboriginal in nature. They know what they're doing, so I'm not terribly concerned about that one.
Well, I mean, they got hit a lot harder in the outbreak than anywhere else. They had over 11,000 deaths from it.
They have other primates too.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
The concern, of course, is that it'll reach escape velocity, and it might, right? That I don't know. Has there been deaths? I haven't read this one yet. Has anyone died yet?
3 have died and 4 others have been infected.
See, there's your mortality rate, ladies and gentlemen. That's a nasty, nasty little fucker. So let's hope it doesn't. We don't need that. Fortunately, we're masking and we're washing our hands and we are social distancing.
I mean,
So
I've been social distancing since 5th grade, but
and you don't have Ebola, everyone. Don Good News Hughes leads all of us in his example. Stay away from people. Don't fuck primates, maybe. I don't know. Sorry.
Oh my God.
I mean, go ahead. I mean, if you have to, do that.
Well,
but
no, those animals are living beings too. Don't
that's
violate
correct.
their
Right.
rights. Give yourself a fucking fleshlight.
real quick history thing, because I know this. There was a Carthaginian admiral that attempted to circumnavigate the planet, and I don't remember his name. I'll find the video afterwards and drop it in the comments. But he provides us with the first recorded sighting of gorillas, and his crew thought that they were large hairy women, and even tried to take some of them back as mates.
That's hey.
So it goes far back, Dean. It goes way far back.
Oh, well, I mean, you start seeing things when you're out to sea for a long time, Mermaids.
Yeah, I was going to say mermaids.
Are you trying to say I don't exist?
Wow.
Oh man. Yeah, if a manatee starts looking good to you, you might want to, I don't know, get some medical care.
Eat an orange, maybe get some cream for that rash, and maybe get some get out of the sun.
His name was
General-
Hanno the Navigator.
I was going to say, was his name General Bubonic of Pelagius? Spreading the love all over the planet.
So,
Oh, goodness.
Wow. Speaking of spreading the love all over the planet, the next segment is Power of a Strike.
Fucking A.
Fucking solidarity, man. So basically, we don't have a whole lot to discuss, but I wanted to talk about the fast food strike and the Fight for 15. That was 2 days ago now. And basically, I'm interested in what everybody thinks they could have done differently or what they did right.
I think we just need to do it again tomorrow.
I mean, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to discuss what we've seen people saying about the strikers and try to dispel some of the myths associated with fast food jobs or fast food workers and the minimum wage.
Well, I've worked many fast food places. They say it's not hard work. They say that they don't deserve it. And I believe that's a load of crap. First, they have to go through training for food safety so you don't get sick when eating fast food. I mean, that's for one, they're trained for your safety. So I believe right there is one thing that they should make $15 an hour or more. I mean,
Well, they were on the essential services list at the beginning of this pandemic and remained on it for many months.
Yep.
Right?
until we deem them
Required
not essential.
service.
They
It's a
became
service
not
that
as
people want to require of others, but don't want to respect or have any regard for.
I think there's a long fight for this because, and I'm not going to put anybody on blast on this stream, but even in our own little pocket of the internet, in our own little group, we've had arguments amongst ourselves whether or not they deserve $15 an hour. So as long as we're questioning it and we're not in solidarity in our regard and our sentiment, we're just going to have to keep striking. And when your subsistence is from three fast food jobs and a DoorDash gig when you're not sleeping or at the sacrifice of sleep because you still can't make ends meet, you don't have any bandwidth for strike. So the answer is a strike fund.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Make it possible for people to be able to go on strike, and not just for one day, but until they cave to those demands.
That's actually an idea I've never heard before, and I'm seriously intrigued. I'd like to talk to you more about that at a later date.
I think
Well, and I do
will-
think that we should be prepared to frankly make some mayhem because they will bring in strike breakers.
I mean, I think that we need something bigger than a strike for the fast food industry. I think that we need a nationwide general strike. I'm not talking
Yeah.
5 years later, $15 an hour. I'm talking about $15 an hour right the fuck now tied to inflation, or we don't go back to
Right.
work.
yeah.
I do agree with you, and I do wonder what it will take to instantiate that. Austin, you were about to say something.
I don't know. I forget.
Sorry.
Yellow
if it
Vest
pops up,
Actions
interrupt.
Yellow Vest Actions is, I don't believe they're the only group either, but they are calling
No,
for a
but these are
general
union-friendly
strike.
countries: Germany, France, parts of England. Right.
I'm talking about the American Yellow Vests in this instance.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I get it. The movement isn't from here.
we
Go
know
ahead.
there's a general strike coming up. I believe it's March 15th. A general strike is going to happen on March 15th. just to let everybody know. So, I mean, I believe if we're like we were just saying, the strike that just happened on the 16th of February, they did that in February because it's Black History Month.
Correct.
Now, the one thing that people can do is stop buying fast food. That's
Right.
an
I was
important
going to
thing.
say that, I don't think that consumer boycotts have a huge track record, but they can't hurt. That and I did hear that there was a general strike plan for May Day, but I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it's March 15th that a general strike is going to happen. So if you work somewhere, it's not just fast food. If you work somewhere, you save up your sick leave, you save up something, you call off sick, you do what you can. You don't go to work. You don't support any place. You stay home, stay safe. Solidarity amongst all of us.
The point is that the system cannot continue without our labor or our consumption. We have to be on the same page.
Well, just hitting the brakes on that wheel doesn't go far enough. Sometimes you have to actually break the wheel. The way things are being run right now is not fucking right.
Well, that's
And
the
that
other
means
side of a
shutting
general
shit
strike.
down.
I mean, it isn't just necessarily calling off. If you're able to go out and shut down a port,
Right.
I'm just saying, looking at you, Portland.
Oakland,
Oakland,
New
yeah.
York.
Actually,
They're
oh my
good.
God, dude. Oakland has shut down the port so many times, and I feel like they intentionally don't give it media coverage.
Well,
But
yeah, it might inspire others to do the same in their port cities. They've figured out a way that really works to shut shit down real quick.
yeah.
Don't add fuel to that fire if you're the fucking corporate media. Can't have your corporate sponsors cutting off funding to you because you went on there with a story about them getting fucked by their employees who are going, fuck your shit, we're shutting your ports down. You're not getting your fucking goods until you cave. They don't want to give positive attention to that. Threatens their own bottom line.
Before
I
I
think
switch,
sorry.
I was going to say before we're done with this segment, Natalie said in the comments, have you heard now that it is suggested to double mask? Yes, actually, we talked about it briefly Monday. They have admitted to the public that the N95 offers the best protection, and still they are saying they need those safe for healthcare. Why? This is far enough in the pandemic. Why don't we have enough? This is a great question, and ultimately, I think it comes down to government inaction. And I might piss off a couple Democrats by saying this, but in terms of pandemic response, Biden has not really done anything different than Trump did.
Well, he has been a little bit more transparent about vaccine stores, distributions, and planned distributions than Trump was.
I mean, yes, but he's not being proactive.
But it wasn't
Transparent,
difficult to
sure.
do that because Trump made decisions and didn't explain them. He halted distribution without explanation as well. I mean, it was a very it was a very low bar to hurdle, unfortunately.
Right.
The only
Yeah.
way he could have, the only, he still could have golfed and just been more open with his press secretary saying when things would happen and when they wouldn't, and he would still be on top from the golf course. Or doing burnouts in his Corvette or whatever he does.
Yeah. I mean, the point is, though, is that the president needs to use the Defense Production Act appropriately to manufacture these things in mass and get them circulated. Unfortunately, to this point, we haven't seen anything like that here.
Well, he was saying something the other day on the news about having already supposedly purchased enough doses to, treat everybody in the country. And I would love to see the actual numbers on that and what does he mean by that? Because there
don't know what that
haven't
means
been
either.
350 million doses fucking produced. So he's saying they already gave the pharma companies some money, or they've already set aside that money, or what? Because there's no way they physically already produced and, therefore Biden's team purchased 350 million fucking doses.
Go ahead, Don.
If I could real quick, like I stated earlier, Rob, I woke up at 5:40 this morning and I'm starting to fall out. If we could move my good news section up to right now before this section so I could take care of what I have to take care of for the rest of the night.
I wish I had music to play for this segment. I hate playing music over the speakers, so it'd be lovely to have the Don Good News Hughes bumper music to introduce this. So
it would be. But without further ado,
consider that your introduction.
We need some good news.
The good news is that you are still exchanging carbon for oxygen. You are here. You have survived this far, and I am proud of you. Despite whatever political or religious or other divisive things in our lives, I want you to know that I am proud that you have survived this far, especially if you're going through anything that is hard for you to deal with. I'm going to put this back up on the screen one last time for everybody to see. I actually am just going to send you a link, Rob, and have you screen share because I don't know how to do that on Zoom. But just for everybody to see, if you are in a place where you feel helpless, insignificant, small, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is open. I've dealt with these people recently. I know it sounds like, empty promises, but they really do want to help. The number is right there, 1-800-273-8255. If you are a veteran in crisis, press 1 when you call that, and they will direct you to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. And just know that if you are making that step, I am proud of you. It's a hard one to make. And with that is my good news tonight. You get a chance to make the world a better place tomorrow, and I'm proud of you.
And make the world a better place if you have accomplished room temperature.
Right.
Amen to that. All right, guys, I am out of here. I appreciate
Dean
you having me
always has
on.
the wisdom of a sage. Good night, Don.
Good night.
Good night, Don.
You're a beautiful soul.
As you can see on your screen, I have put this list of mutual aid organizations back in front of your faces. It's almost like I'm trying to push you. I really hope that anyone who has any ability to help, or anybody who is on the ground in Texas that needs help, I hope that either way you can get in contact with these places. They're doing very good work on the ground. One of these days we'll have one of them on to talk about what all they've accomplished, but as I'm sure everybody here can understand, they are extremely busy right now. Anyway, the next segment is going to be climate change. And there's a lot about Texas under the climate change section, and I did that intentionally. I think it's safe to say that the weather that's happening currently in Texas, while it is not necessarily a once in a lifetime thing, it's pretty much unprecedented. And the frequency increasing, I think, points even more to the fact that climate change is happening. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that.
Whether it's cold or whether it's hot, it'll be whether or not.
First thing I wanted to address before we get into actual any stories is that I've seen conservatives pushing the idea that the outages were caused by renewable energy. I know that we already briefly touched on this earlier, but I just wanted to point out yet again that aged infrastructure, lack of regular maintenance, lack of emergency maintenance, all of these are very key things to the failures.
Privatization, the prioritizations, the choice of fuel to power turbines and generators,
Not
meaning
having politicians that care.
correct. All of these
Sorry.
form a perfect storm that has had a human life cost. Unfortunately, we don't even know because we're not getting dispatches. I'm not seeing a great lot of information from Texas right now. We heard some horror stories. Today seemed kind of dead. Granted, we threw a Tesla on Mars today, so we don't, I don't know. Maybe we had to worry about Ted Cruz rather than what was happening. But if you have relatives that you've been able to communicate with in Texas, or you've had any, if you know any news, bring it to the Where We Are Many Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to click the live updates link again from CBS News. But as of less than 2 hours ago, there was more than 325,000 Texas residents still without power. At this point, it's going on, what, 3 days?
Oh yeah, 3 days. Yep.
After all electricity was supposed to be restored by last night, according to the governor. Let's see if there's anything new. 24. Whoa. Okay, so winter storms are disrupting vaccine efforts. That's not really surprising. There is another winter storm moving in, which we knew, I guess, but it's still snowing. And the death toll has been updated to 34. And that is expected to continue climbing. It's heartbreaking, frankly. It's not the first time that they've dealt with weather like this, and I understand that. I hope that the state, that is, not the people, it's not the people's fault. It's not the state's fault that this happened either, and I want to make that clear, but it is the state's fault that they aren't able to do anything about it.
And just to give that a visual here, that is the Texas power outage map.
Wow. Wow. That is depressing. Abbott, the governor, Greg Abbott, promised to reform the state's power utility, claiming that ERCOT assured him Texas was ready for extreme temperatures. You can never trust a corporate board.
No.
I can't believe that we have to have this conversation, that we have to make that abundantly clear.
Always money over people.
Yeah. The state legislature will now investigate the company to find out what went wrong. Texans deserve answers about why the shortfalls occurred and how they're going to be corrected, and Texans will get those answers. Enough about Greg Abbott, though. Texas residents are encouraged to stay home or drive with caution. Those who do leave might have trouble finding gas. The winter storm has slowed down deliveries, leaving some gas stations across northern Texas completely out of fuel. Hundreds of thousands of residents are still without power. We just said it was 325,000. And have resorted to using their cars for auxiliary power, charging phones, medical devices, or simply trying to get some heat. But traveling is still risky. And the AAA person, I think, is trying to not invoke panic here, but he said, certainly what's important for drivers to know, this is really more of a temporary outage, not a shortage. No, it is a shortage. If an entire region is running out of gas at the gas stations, that is a shortage. But he stressed not to rush to the gas station to purchase fuel. The NBA and the NHL have postponed a bunch of games. Either being played in Texas or involving teams from Texas have been postponed. Politicians and power industry officials are blaming each other for the state's outages, but they are not yet able to say how long this will last.
So we've determined that it wasn't the Green New Deal, or it was, that caused this?
Well, originally Greg Abbott was trying to blame the Green New Deal. Yes. Today he said whether it be renewable power such as wind or solar, but also, as I mentioned today, access to coal-generated power, access to gas generation power have also been compromised. So natural gas, coal, and nuclear combined is 69% roughly of Texas's power output. Wind and solar together are slightly over 25%. The natural gas generators that everybody was counting on, and some coal plants were supposed to fire up also, and they didn't answer the call either.
What happened with the natural gas infrastructure? Just froze, breaks?
Oh, yeah, it froze to an extent where they were having to do mass burn-offs in other states that they tried to pull it off as a normal thing, but we're talking about towers of flames.
Got it.
So, not normal.
Didn't we discuss earlier how their wind turbines were actually warm weather ones and not cold weather ones?
That's what I heard. I don't have it validated though.
Well, I mean, even the warm weather ones, you can de-ice. There is a process for that, but they weren't regularly maintained and they weren't de-iced. So,
so it's the failure of the state-run programs that would do that.
Well, technically, it'd be a failure of the privatized corporations that run the state's power infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it's private, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. Well, they probably didn't want to pay those people that money to go up there and do that for them. So,
yeah. Greg Abbott is calling for an investigation into the group that manages the state power grid, which is ERCOT. We've discussed them twice now. Saying far too many Texans are without power and heat for their homes as our state faces freezing temperatures and severe winter weather. This is unacceptable. He's trying to shift the blame off of himself, but they wouldn't have the power that they have if it wasn't for him and his buddies. Roughly 4.4 million customers were without power midday Tuesday. 4.4 million customers in freezing temperatures. On the same day, Many cities in Texas and neighboring states are seeing record low temperatures, such as -1 in Dallas-Fort Worth. That's fucking crazy. 12 in San Antonio and 19 in Corpus Christi, erasing marks that had stood for more than 100 years. Electricity customers across Texas have been enduring rolling blackouts since the early hours of Monday morning after the state's grid operator rapidly escalated an energy emergency declaration through 3 levels early Monday, which did nothing. It got power back to the places the billionaires own in downtown districts.
Oh, well, then we can all rest easy.
Yeah. ERCOT, which manages power for about 90% of the state's electric load, said severe conditions were causing problems for all types of power generators, from natural gas, which, you know, they have the pipes in some places running above the ground or running just below the ground, not insulated at all. This is the problem. They were advised by federal regulators that it was a problem. And instead of fixing it, they kicked out the federal regulators and isolated their grid. Ron said, heated blades and composite material that is less subject to icing costs more. You're right. They didn't want to spend the money because they don't believe in winter in Texas. And they don't believe in climate change either in terms of public officials. So, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. Natalie said,
Public officials don't believe in helping people either.
right.
They
Natalie said Texas and the cleanup involved by molds and fungi growth in homes, etc., will cost millions or more, and the risk of sickness could be insurmountable in chronic conditions that need healthcare for many years. We haven't seen it for this reason, but I mean, look at how much it has cost to clean up Flint, and look at how long it took to get access to those funds.
And New Orleans. I mean, remember, I think they're still trying to repair New Orleans from when they had their floods and stuff. Yeah, Katrina. So
Natalie said CNN
I mean,
left that part out on what area got power back, and I just wanted to point out that comment because CNN leaves a lot of things out, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later too. But that's the idea. We're not giving you the corporate narrative. We're giving you our take on this.
right.
And sometimes that involves pulling up information, like Trisha did with that map. And she also said New Orleans still has problems, like Austin just said. And the last thing under climate change, I didn't know where else to put it, honestly. I'm not going to dive deep on this at all. I just wanted to say fuck Rick Perry, and then I wanted to tell you why I'm saying fuck Rick Perry. So I'm saying fuck Rick Perry because he is calling on Texans to endure frigid temps without heat to keep the feds out of their business. That's as deep as I'm going is the headline. Fuck Rick Perry.
Says the former Energy Secretary of the United States of America. Fascinating.
It's disgusting.
It really is. No fucking
Moving on.
compassion, no empathy from him.
Remember, people, in order to avoid malfeasance, you have to have the ability to learn. This is a learning moment for us.
The next section is going to be combating fascism.
Bring them out.
So this has to do with, I guess, the defunding of the police, because this is by definition what they were asking for. Denver successfully sent mental health professionals, not police, to hundreds of calls. They are not the first U.S. city to do this. They are not the first U.S. city to have great success with this, but they are now on the list of cities that have done both. So this program, they called it the Support Team Assistance Response, or STAR, was a pilot program. that is reporting early success. The program replaces traditional law enforcement responders with healthcare workers for some emergency calls. Previously, 911 operators only directed calls to police or fire. But the STAR program created a third track for directing emergency calls to a two-person team, a medic and a clinician, staffed in a van from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays. That being said, I think that's an area it could be improved. It should not have business hours. What the hell is that? But it's a start.
It's
And the STAR,
incremental progress. That's what that is. Incremental progress.
yeah, that's fair. The STAR program, which launched in June, reported promising results in its 6-month progress report. The program aims to provide a person-centric mobile crisis response to community members who are experiencing problems relating to mental health, depression, poverty, homelessness, or substance abuse issues. Imagine that, treating health problems as health issues. Denver is among
Right.
several U.S. cities working to develop an alternative emergency responder model for people who are experiencing mental health crises, as police officers fatally shoot hundreds of people experiencing mental health crises every year, according to a Washington Post database of fatal shootings by on-duty police officers. Since 2015, police have fatally shot nearly 1,400 people with mental illnesses, and those are only the ones that are diagnosed.
Right.
All in all, I think that we need to see that everywhere. I put that under combating fascism, obviously, because the police state as it exists today is, in my opinion, fascist.
It's, and defunding it is part of fighting that, because the evidence is showing for itself that when you reallocate those funds, you can actually make a positive difference.
Yeah. So, anybody else have anything to say about that?
Can I reiterate what I was saying last week when I had a bad connection?
Please do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I believe that police should be elected officials, like sheriffs are. They should be elected from within their communities, not an outside community, not an outside participant. They need to be, like we're talking, that the union actually needs to be taken away for a little bit, and we need to be able to reform their unions and what they're able and not able to do. When a cop shoots somebody and kills them, he doesn't get prosecuted. He just gets kicked out of that department and shipped to another one across country. So, but nobody knows who he is. So we need to be able to have the police care for us. That's why we need them in our communities. We need them to be elected. So in case something happens, that community can deal with it as they see fit. I think that's it, unless anybody wants to add on to that if I missed something.
Just that I agree with you.
Google the 21-foot rule.
I mean, yes, we. Yeah, the 21-foot rule. Yeah, we need a total overhaul of how we police, and we need them to actually work for us again instead of money and corporations and the government that is controlled by those corporations. I mean, what was that one thing that we just saw recently, that they are protecting dumpsters in Texas?
Yeah.
So hungry people cannot get food.
That was Oregon, actually, and we'll be discussing that in a little bit. I wanted to use this
one about
opportunity to
Texas.
piggyback. I'm sorry, I just wanted to piggyback off of what you were just saying. The Green Party's official stance on it right now is I mean, it's not to necessarily elect cops, which I 100% agree with, and I think that we should implement that plan with this plan. But community elected oversight boards, not that just report back to the government, but that actually have the authority to fucking do something about it.
And they should be reporting back to the rest their community via, something along the lines of like city council meetings that we have meetings like that with the community where you report back to the community of what exactly you are doing to resolve those problems.
Right, exactly.
Accountability on all fucking levels.
Yeah, how we used to have town hall meetings
Mm-hmm.
once existed.
Yep.
I went to our town council meeting, a couple of them, and there was literally only 3 people of a town of 6,000. So we need to get involved again.
Absolutely. How are we to be represented if we don't make our views known and, actually go communicate with our employees and go, these are the things that our community fucking needs. We've got to get more active with that, like I'm surprised by that, but then kind of not. I don't know, when I've gone to city council meetings here in Flint, they've always been packed. Even when I went to them up in Mount Pleasant, which is a small town, they were always packed from one end to the other of people coming to actually deal with the shit that was affecting their everyday lives, whether it be the, people who are collecting the leaves on the side of the street in the fall, coming out and asking like, hey, can you send them around another week? Because we ended up with a lot more leaves falling. We raked out to the side of the road and, they're just sitting there waiting to get snowed on, simple things like that, all the way up to, dealing with shit like defunding the police and monitoring them and dealing with healthcare. Things like this need to actually be brought to their attention directly.
Yes. In my town. Yeah, right. Definitely accountability. In my town, a lot of the people that are on, that's a council member, they're usually rich. They own their own businesses. We have actually a woman that is part of the newspaper that is on the town council. Now, I believe that that's a little, what would you say? A conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely, I mean, what it is in my town, people know that they don't care for them. The council members don't care what they think and how they feel. I even posted on groups and everybody's like, we need stuff for kids in my town. And I brought it to their attention and they said, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. I don't care how many people in the town want it. We don't have the money. We don't have the funds. And yet we've raised money throughout the years to get our pool back, which we had at one point in time. And they literally sent the money to a different organization and they're keeping it for God knows what or when or how they're going to use it, because it doesn't seem like they've wanted to use it over the 10 years that we've been collecting it for our town.
Wow.
I'm sorry, and rant.
Where's the accountability? And that's the reason why you shouldn't be allowed to run for any seat representing any area that you don't live in. I don't like this shit, like, because we've seen a lot of that around here too, with people, being allowed to run for certain positions when they don't live in the area. That's not a thing that we should even be seeing at all. If you're going to be a member of any type of board like that, or of the police or the firefighters, I don't care what it is, you should be working in the neighborhood where you live, because how else are you going to be coming to the table realistically looking at what your neighborhood needs? If you don't know what that neighborhood needs because you don't fucking live in it, then how are you serving it?
Exactly. The police should be from the community that they serve or live in the community that they serve. And
I was about
go ahead.
I was about to say that I've looked, and you can, if you want, you can go, and I'm sure your town council, city council has an actual website that you can actually see all the funds of where your tax dollars go. And I've looked, and most of our tax dollars, for some reason, go to the police. Our police every 5 years gets brand new vehicles. There are 5 or 6 of them, brand new vehicles. And we live in a town of 6,000, and that is just outrageous of how they are spending our money on things that do not affect the community.
Agreed. Are we ready to move on to the next piece?
Yep.
Okay. So a judge has declined a new arrest warrant for Kyle Rittenhouse. Kenosha Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger alleged that Kyle Rittenhouse failed to update his address when he moved out of his Antioch apartment in November, amounting to a bail violation, which it is. In addition to a new arrest warrant, Binger asked Judge Bruce Schroeder to increase Rittenhouse's bail by $200,000. Rittenhouse's attorneys countered that Rittenhouse is in hiding due to threats. Schroeder refused both of Binger's requests. During a testy hearing, the judge said people out on bail often fail to update their addresses and aren't arrested. He ordered Rittenhouse attorney Mark Richards to turn over the Rittenhouse's current physical address, but said it would be sealed to the public and only he and the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department would have access to it. The judge refused to give Binger the address, saying he didn't want more violence in Kenosha. Binger said, "I hope you're not suggesting sharing this with our office would lead to further violence. We are not the public, we are the prosecuting agency. I have never heard of a situation where the information has been withheld from my office." And I do think that that's a dangerous precedence to set, especially in a case like Rittenhouse's.
Right. Like, we're not talking about somebody moving and not changing their address with the court over a misdemeanor. We're talking about double fucking homicide.
Yeah. Among a slew of other misdemeanors and felonies, but yes.
And you
And
moved
I
to a
mean,
different county.
The thing is, though, is if you were somebody with a misdemeanor pot charge, for example, that, you know, skipped town and didn't update your address, then if the prosecutors found out about it, you would be charged for that, period.
Right. You'd get hit with that fine.
Didn't he go across either state or county lines with a assault rifle with a firearm?
He
Wasn't
didn't
that a
technically
felony, I believe,
cross,
too?
according to his story, he didn't technically cross state lines with it because he had the gun at a friend's parents' house in Kenosha. I don't know that I believe that.
No,
But
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if I believe that either, but
wasn't it his mom's gun? Or his dad's?
technically, yes. It was purchased for him when he was underage.
And his mom went with him. There's photos of them together that night. His mom was in Kenosha with him. His mom drove him there to go, you know, kill a couple people. But you know, this is something that shouldn't even be just charges levied against him, but against his parents as well.
And I agree with that. Natalie
That's
says, and
accessory to
some
murder.
look at him as a hero. I don't believe it. I get it.
Well, no, some right-wing people really do, and they think that he's, I don't know, some example to set of, yeah, defend your rights. Motherfucker, you weren't defending your anything. You were going to a place where you don't fucking live and trying to say you're protecting a window by taking life.
Yeah.
Businesses that aren't yours, you have no connection to. Town you have no connection to. You were there to incite violence, period. And the fact that any of them are glorifying his little ass makes my blood boil.
those are the same people that were calling protesters speed bumps, I believe. I mean, I'm just speculating, but that's what I believe.
Yeah.
They literally think anybody on the left, their life is worthless and disposable.
But then they can go to the Capitol and break into it and kill police. And, you know, I mean, they didn't kill innocent bystanders, but not innocent, but people that broke in also had, you know, their lives ended shortly. And I mean, that's just like, it's a double standard. That's what it is. It's a double standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Natalie says, exactly. There is a problem when property matters over a human life. And I just want to emphasize that my personal belief is that no amount of property can ever equal a life.
Damn right.
No,
And
things can be
speaking
replaced,
of
rebuilt.
property over lives, I think that the next piece, which is actually a video, is probably going to make some people very angry, because I know it made me very angry. And Austin, you actually brought it up earlier. Portland, police clashing with residents over food that was being thrown out from a supermarket due to a power outage.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in Texas too, that happened.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, because the police, in my opinion, exist to protect capital.
Class traders.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm just going to go ahead and play this video.
Portland police officers confronted a group of residents on Tuesday who tried to salvage food that was thrown away by a grocery store, authorities said. A power outage caused by a winter storm forced workers at the Hollywood West Fred Meyer in Portland to toss thousands of perishable items into two large dumpsters outside the store, police said. Police said officers responded to a call at about 4 p.m. from a Fred Meyer employee saying that they felt the situation was escalating. When officers arrived, the employee told the police that the food was spoiled and unfit for consumption or donation, according to the police. Video and photos showed mountains of food, including packaged meat, large juice cartons, and dairy products. Officers asked the group, which grew to about 50 people, to leave or risk potential arrest for trespassing on private property, police said. The police guarded the dumpsters to prevent people from taking the discarded grocery items, local resident Morgan McNiff told the Oregonian. Juniper Simonis, who showed up to document police presence, said after the officers threatened arrest, the crowd dispersed and moved across the street, the newspaper reported. After showing their press badge, Simonis said the officers responded, saying, "We're going to arrest you if you don't leave." "I was documenting the police, not what was in the dumpster," Simonis said. Portland police did not immediately answer a question about Simonis' press badge Wednesday. Fred Meyer did not immediately respond to a request for comment Wednesday. Police said the officers eventually left, believing that there was no longer any threat or harm. Simonis said their departure allowed people who were waiting to pick up food to return to the dumpsters, the newspaper reported. Workers at Fred Meyer called the police again, but officers did.
So basically, the reason that I played this video, obviously the footage is from other events. The reason that I played that story instead of basing it on another article was because they used multiple sources. And it was mostly quotes from people that were involved. So that being said, there is video on the internet of the actual event, but I just wanted to point out that, journalists were shooed away for documenting what the police were doing, which is typical, I guess. And the crowd was mostly, as I understand it, mutual aid organizers and simply hungry people. And the police defended a dumpster of garbage food from these hungry people. It's disgusting.
It's fucked up. A lot of that food was likely still just fine. They have to throw it out just in case it goes bad, if there's something like that. And,
yeah, I mean, keep in mind that they threw it out because the coolers weren't on, but neither were the furnaces.
No, but Mother Nature was. It was fucking
Exactly.
a winter storm, so it's being refrigerated outside. It's still good for consumption.
That's just like when corporations will pour bleach on in their dumpsters so people can't go and try to get food out of them. I mean,
Right.
It's just sad. It's a sad world.
Yeah, I got nothing. I can't. It's just
So
it's absurd and it's obscene. That's all I can say.
yes, it is. I know that this one had some footage of the event here. Okay, so I'm keeping the sound off in case it's not fair use or whatever. With it being, an actual media station.
Mm.
But I mean, seriously though, you're gonna send in a couple dozen police officers to bust up people trying to feed their families? It's infuriating.
Honestly, wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they were just trying to keep themselves from getting in hot water with their insurance company.
Well, yeah, here's their statement on it right here. We get it. Throwing away food is never a good thing. Unfortunately, some perishable food that requires refrigeration at our Hollywood store was out of temperature for a protracted period of time. This was due to a weather-related power outage, and it is not safe for consumption. Out of an abundance of caution, we are disposing of the product to keep people safe. I mean, they
Okay,
can
well,
try to humanize themselves however they want. It's still not right to throw away food in front of fucking hungry people and then, like, basically beating them away when they try to go retrieve it.
right. All this takes is some basic knowledge of how food refrigeration works. If it's something questionable like chicken that has thawed out and then got refroze when it went outside, okay, don't eat that. That might be bad. But if it's some vegetables that were in the tray that girl was holding at the end of that clip, okay, those vegetables look fine. They're not going to be hurt, by not being refrigerated at a cold enough temperature before being sent outside where it's even colder. You
We
can
forget
still
too
eat those
quickly.
vegetables.
I don't know, guys. I think we forget too quickly how the CDC hotlines lit up after the Trump speech about bleach and whatever the fuck.
Oh goodness.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a typical liberal elite asshole, but
But food safety, we
these
know
aren't
it because
these
we're
aren't our we didn't
restaurants,
send
but
our
not every.
they're not our best and brightest. But then
Can I bring
again,
up a
I know woke ass people who do really sketchy shit with food, so I don't know.
Same.
Starbucks recently was caught throwing away food after they vowed to have zero waste. They caught them throwing away food after that. I mean, it's just these large places, and they don't care. They don't care about food waste. They don't care about the people that go hungry. They don't care about people in general. They, like we've said many of times, they only care about profit. So
Right.
Well,
I'm just
and
gonna
that's by
share.
design, and that's intentional, and that's why a market-based, that's why a market-driven, market-centric,
capitalist country.
capitalist. Yeah, well, yeah. Sorry, yeah. So, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. That's why I'm getting loopy. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So obviously on your screen, again, you're seeing the mutual aid groups around Texas that have mobilized to make sure that people have enough to eat. Make sure that people have warm blankets or access to propane heaters. They need supplies desperately. That's why I'm putting this stuff in front of you guys so many times today.
Thank you.
Every donation that they get matters. They are very much swamped right now. They are regular people like you and I, and they're caught in an impossible situation trying to bail out their state where their government is falling short. That said, if you know anybody in Texas that needs help, get them in touch with these groups. If you know anybody in Texas that is okay and wants to help, get them in touch with these groups. If anybody needs rescuing, contact Crowdsource Rescue. Or if anybody wants to volunteer with them, contact them. And I pointed this out earlier in the stream, but I think it's really cool that both the Dallas-Fort Worth Socialist Rifle Association chapter and the Elm Fork chapter of the John Brown Gun Club have mobilized as mutual aid groups. And as I said earlier in the stream, I think that says a lot about the left.
Yes.
Ron in the comments said, possibly insurance companies wouldn't want to cover spoiled food that ultimately was consumed by people anyway. Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately the issue, but I think that the legal aspect of it shouldn't even be a concern. I think that people are starving and they don't, if they are willing to take the risk, by all means, they should be able to make that decision themselves.
Yeah, you get sick from eating spoiled food or you die from starvation. I mean, I would rather eat something that is spoiled and at least have something in my stomach than die.
Maybe not even
About the
spoiled.
mutual aid,
Right, I agree with Dean. I think most of it wasn't even spoiled. The problem was
No,
that the
probably not.
power went out, so the heat wasn't working. It was below freezing in that building.
I don't even think it was that. I think the problem was they put something in a receptacle that they don't own. So contractually, they're probably obligated to keep human persons out of it, and B, it likely violates some procedure or policy in their corporate structure. Again, this is all liability avoidance, and it has anything to do with the. I think the safety of the food is a tertiary concern. And it just sounds better instead of going out and saying, "Hey, look, we can't have you dumbasses falling out of the dumpster and cracking your heads open."
Yeah. Natalie says, Dean, you're right to bring up the issues, in my opinion. We need a safe way around it when there is a way around it, and some revised laws to help with food waste versus health risk versus the risk of lawsuits that these corporations are apparently concerned about. Forefront as its risk to profit if sued and risk to the company's name, as too many people end up settling in lawsuit. So yeah, I mean,
100% watch you starve in order to keep their ass out of court, and the right, create some problem for them that might affect stock price, etc. It's obscene. There's no other way to put it. It's obscene.
We were just talking about mutual. Go ahead, Dean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go. No, yeah, I'm done. I'm being redundant now. Go ahead.
What we were just talking about, mutual aid. If you can't do anything that Rob said, if you can't help, you can share. You can share these groups that we showed on Twitter, on any kind of social media, so more people can be aware that there are these groups out there that are trying to help people in Texas.
We have a post on our Facebook that we have shared to our support group and our mutual aid group, and a bunch of other places, actually. Most of these organizations have reposted it themselves. So it's pinned as an announcement in the support group, actually. So if you haven't gone into the support group and joined, go ahead, and it's the first post you'll see. You'll have to click on it because you'll just see the picture at first, but if you click on it, you'll see all the text with all the organizations and contact info on it.
Roger that.
Yeah, I guess that's about all I have to say on that. Does anybody else have anything to add?
If you can, for the mutual aid, try to create your own mutual aid if you have the means to. That's something that I believe we're trying to do, right, Rob?
Yeah, actually, we would like to build or be involved in the building of. I can't say that the four of us obviously can do it by ourselves, but that being said, I would like to see a local branch of our mutual aid organization pop up anywhere we have supporters. It can start with literally one person. Go to the store, buy some non-perishable food items, and directly give them to somebody. Or buy socks, hats, blankets, and directly give them to people in need. That's all it takes to get started. Of course, be smart. Wear your
Yes.
mask, or if you're following guidelines, actually, then wear 2 masks. Just you don't got to even like talk about really anything with these people. Just explain that you're from a mutual aid organization and explain that you want to help. Explain to them that they are not in this alone and that the only way that we're going to get through everything that our society is facing right now is together.
Yep.
Explain to
Yeah.
them that the government may not care, but there are people who do. There are a lot of people who
The
do.
people do. Yes. Yes. It's about compassion.
We've seen a rise this past year in mutual aid groups because of COVID anyway, which I think is a good thing. And that's part of the reason that we started, talking about it. But the situation in Houston right now, this freak of nature as it is, just kind of solidifies in my mind that we need to do it. It's not even that we want to do it or that we want to be good people and that's why we're going to do it. It's that we need to do it to ensure our survival.
And we know these large organizations like FEMA take a while to respond to these kind of emergencies. But if you live in a city, a town, in your state, and we all have mutual aids in these states and cities and towns, it doesn't take long for us to respond. So
That's true. That's an excellent point.
Well, yeah, we saw that. I will forever plug the events after Hurricane Sandy as proof, as solid concrete proof that mutual aid organizations can respond faster. Even though that was on the eastern seaboard, it took FEMA 7 days to respond. It took Occupy protesters less than a few hours to respond. By the end of the first day, they were rescuing people from their homes by canoe when the streets were flooded. They were delivering hot meals and blankets and candles after a snowstorm hurricane, mind you. So, everything's frozen except for the water flowing down the street. And these people responded with blankets, candles, food, heaters, whatever they could within hours by canoe. It took FEMA 7 days to show up, and then the protesters had to show them where to go. The people can always respond faster than the government, and that's something we should never forget.
yes.
Dean, you got anything to say about that, or are you ready to move on to the next section?
Rock on, brother.
Okay, right on. The next section is LGBTQ news. Here's a couple of things we got in here for this week. The first one is not so positive, unfortunately. Mitt Romney is opposing LGBTQ rights, an LGBTQ rights bill, unless Christians get a right to discriminate. It's this last week, I believe, I was throwing Mitt Romney a little bit of praise and having the spine to vote for Trump's impeachment. Take that back. Mitt Romney's still a piece of shit.
Right.
Hell yeah.
And
Yep.
it came as no surprise at all, because when it comes down to it, he's still going to pander to his, support base as well. And to literally be going, I won't vote yes on this legislation unless you give us a but the Bible clause to completely negate it for anybody who wants to use that as their excuse to discriminate. That makes that entire law futile, and it like I said, it negates it completely. That's fucked.
I mean, didn't the Pope himself say it's okay to be gay or lesbian or, you know, to be part of that community?
Yeah, but Mitt Romney is a Mormon.
Well, true, but
Well,
still, Jesus
I've
never
been to a
condemned
few
gays.
Mormon churches. Yeah, that's right. Jesus never did condemn gays. Yeah, love everyone. How about that, Mitt Romney, huh?
Yeah, no
Right.
shit. So obviously, though, what he wants to see would essentially nullify the intended effect of the Equality Act itself. Most people who engage in an anti-LGBTQ discrimination explain themselves by referring to the religious animus. I forgot to credit that quote, but that was a quote. So the Republican from Utah has announced that he will oppose the Equality Act unless it includes language that would allow Christians to discriminate against LGBTQ people. This bill is a priority for the Biden administration, and Romney's vote could be critical to passage. Senator Romney believes that strong religious liberty protections are essential to any legislation on this issue, and since those provisions are absent from this particular bill, he is not able to support it, said Ariel Mueller, a Romney spokesperson.
I'll take this moment to just point out that, in my opinion, the RFRA bills should all completely be fucking repealed, because all they are is, here's your excuse to discriminate, you know, and completely, you know, go against the previous laws that were set in place to, you know, prevent discrimination. There's no excuse for it. That's setting a bad precedent as it is, of going, well, if your religion really pushes for this form of discrimination, then we'll allow it. And you can just be like, see, well, my religion says this. Well, I say your bigoted views don't belong in our fucking laws. You know, there's no reason for there to be any laws protecting people who just want to discriminate for no logical reason. It's horrible. Like, can't you just treat other people like people and keep your opinion about their sex lives or anything else to yourself? That's just my take on it. People need to learn how to stay in their own fucking lane.
It seems like that's the history of America, is to discriminate against people. People they don't understand or people they don't agree with.
Right? It's
So,
fucking horrible.
I mean, I'll tell you a story about the Mormons, since I went to their church and I went to the museum in Salt Lake City. Mormons actually were in Pennsylvania and Ohio when they first started. The other religions actually made it legal to hunt Mormons. You were allowed to shoot a Mormon on sight. Mormons had to track all the way across the country to find their sanctuary in Salt Lake City and Utah, so they could get away from that kind of stuff. And now they seem like they've lost.
Actually, it was
Go ahead.
so they could put the mountains and the Salt Lake onto their backs and defend themselves. But please continue.
Yeah, and I mean, I think thousands of them died on that trek over those mountains, and they made them so they wouldn't be persecuted from the other religions. And so easily they forget that they were once a persecuted people too. And they are very judgmental. I'm sorry, I don't mean all of them, but usually the churches, and they were very judgmental to us. I could talk a little about their religion, but I don't know if I should. But I mean, the Mormons believe in 3 levels of heaven, and they're there's the top level, the middle level, and the lower level. And the top level, if you're not born Mormon, you can't be in the top level of the Mormon church and the Mormon heaven. And the people on top can visit the people in either the lower levels, but the people in the lower levels can't visit people in the top. And I don't know. I just found it so crazy how they describe things. And they, even in Salt Lake City, they had people, I'm pretty sure they were Catholic or Christian people outside of their it's like a rectangle that they actually have in the middle of the city that is walled, where they have their main churches and their main buildings, and they were protesting the Mormons. And it's just like, you're still being judged today, and yet you judge others when both of you follow Jesus and he told you not to judge anyone. It didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I'm sorry. And rant.
Specifically,
No, you're good.
judge not lest ye be judged. You know, of like, if you judge others,
Yeah.
you are literally inviting it upon yourself.
Yeah, the
So,
golden rule: do unto others what you were to have done unto yourself. I mean,
right.
I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in that. I do believe that in the golden rule. I that's why I try to treat people the best of my ability. So
I'm not religious either, but you get what you give.
yeah, and that's a karma too, you know.
Hmm. I don't care how you phrase it. If you want to call it reaping what you sow, or calling it karma, or any other name for it, it comes down to the same thing. You get what you give. How you treat other people
And
in life is what you're welcoming back to yourself.
if I got
Go ahead.
if I got anything wrong in that, and you're a Mormon, please, I would love for you to correct me about that. But I literally went to their churches for a few months when I lived in Salt Lake City. I went to the museum and everything, and I just think it's wrong. I think it's wrong for anybody to judge somebody else and to hold them I don't know, to just to hold them as people, as bigots do. I mean, don't hate one another. Learn to love and accept people for who they are. I mean, that's not so hard. You find it in your heart to do so.
So we have a couple comments. Natalie said Jesus was a socialist, and I just want to say, hell yeah, comrade. And then she also said religion somehow seems to end in division. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a big part of its
religion
purpose, because
especially.
that's part of that control factor.
Yeah.
Organized religion itself exists to control the masses. That's one factor of it.
And Ron Stefanski said, Austin, can you explain Planet Colab and the magic underwear?
Oh, God. Right, I'm curious.
Yeah, I think people can Google that. I don't, I feel personally, Austin, you have full autonomy of governance over thy own self, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more of a Google sidebar.
I think the question's funny and valid. However,
Yes,
it's
definitely valid.
Could be a rabbit hole. I'd be willing to have a round table about the LDS. That's a fascinating set of topics. Something I've been researching for 30 plus years. Book of Mormon is a fascinating document. An epic exercise in biblical fan fiction.
If you want to know more about the Mormon religion, I mean, a lot of people believe it. I mean, for one, I've always been very curious about religion, all different types, and theirs was definitely interesting. And the things I do like about churches and religion is that they do try to help people. And I mean, they do judge people, yes, and they do look down upon people, but they do try to help people. When I was there in Salt Lake City, they actually helped me get my ID. and their food banks were actually controlled by the Mormons, which I mean is a good or bad thing, but I mean at least they were trying to help people, and that's what I take out of religion, is that they do try to help.
And
Now,
I was surprised at how, frankly, how diverse Salt Lake City was. I've been there a few times. And I've been to the LDS Church, Ground Zero Church, and I was kind of impressed with its. It was probably one of the most multinational cities I've seen of the last 20 years. I'd say it was in the top 5.
yeah, it's it's a nice city. I mean, the people
It
are
freaked me out,
definitely
and I couldn't
unique
wait to
down
get
there.
the hell out of there, to be honest with you. I had a rocket strapped to my back to get out of there. I literally drove out of there because of weather and no flights. I rented a car and fucked off. I mean, as fast as I could. And that's no joke.
But I mean, when I was there, they wanted to baptize me under the Mormons, and I obviously I did not. But I always found it interesting to study these religions and to see you try to take the good things out of what you learn in life, what you learn about
Right.
religions and stuff, and you apply it to your own life and throw everything that you think is bad away. And that's why I've never really truly joined a church. I've never been baptized at all. So I mean, even when I was a baby, I wasn't, and I don't know. I probably will never, because I believe in us. I believe in the earth. I believe in people. I don't believe in religion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry
Right.
to anybody that does. I'm not trying to say that your religion's bad or that you're bad. I'm just saying my personal beliefs is that I don't believe.
I'm, I, I, I still think that the magic underwear thing's pretty fucking baller.
So I guess the last comment for this section that I'll take. Well, not this section, but this story. We still have one more that we'll get to tonight in this section. But Ron said, I just brought that up to point out the illogic of Mormonism, and for that matter, all religions. Every one of them has illogic at the core of the belief system. And in
Well,
terms of organized religion, especially, I definitely believe that. As Trisha said
well,
earlier, it's kind of a control thing. Not kind of, it
all
is.
religions, all religion stems from the beginning of religion, and that was one of the beginning religions that was throughout the world was paganism.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the pagan Bible that is actually in other Bibles. Like a lot of our holidays that we celebrate in America are actually pagan holidays.
Right.
Christmas is, Valentine's is,
Easter.
there's Easter, yes. And like it's what it's been is it's been recycled, and it's been used to control people, the poor, or make people like America. We use religion as a marketing scheme, and I don't care what you say. That's my. Did I say religion? I meant holidays. Sorry. We use holidays as a marketing scheme. Christmas, buying, everything is to buy goods. That's because we live in a capitalist country and a capitalist world, really. I mean, the majority of the countries in the world they believe in capitalism. There are a few that believe in more so socialism, but a lot of those socialist countries also have a capitalist undertone to them. I mean, if you disagree with me, let me know.
It's feeding consumerism. It's being exploited, much like a lot of other facets of religion are. Like the ministers we were talking about earlier, getting wealthy, becoming millionaires building entire compounds for themselves and their families, and have parishioners who are going broke, can't afford their rent or some food to feed their children.
I do believe in, like we were just saying earlier, I believe in taxing the churches.
Same.
I believe that, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I heard that the Catholic Church actually received stimulus of a couple million during our, I think it was the first stimulus check we got. They got a couple $1 million. And how much of that would actually have helped the people instead of a large organization like the Catholic Church?
One of the wealthiest organizations in the world. Why did it need help? It's supposed to be doing charity, not receiving it. Ain't that that's their claim anyways to why, you pay tithes. It's not just supposed to support the priests, it's supposed to support the community. So why did they need a stimulus check? What the hell? They don't even pay taxes, but they're receiving some tax dollars. There's something wrong with that picture,
I'd like to clarify something real quick, though.
If we were talking about a tiny little church that has very little money coming in, enough to pay their lights just to be able to hold services, that's different. But when we're talking about mega billionaire fucking massive churches like these ones on TV, no, pay your taxes.
For my end statement on this, I'd like to say that if you're religious, I accept you because you are a human. And I appreciate you, and I will care for you, and I will try to help you. And I just hope that you will do the same for others.
Amen to that. I kind of want to piggyback off of that, and I kind of want to piggyback off of what Natalie said earlier about Jesus being a socialist. When I had stepped away, I actually typed this out in the comments. I said, many socialist revolutions were based in Catholic beliefs. Cuba, for example. They're only one, but I don't think that the beliefs themselves are the problem. It's the organizations that run them.
Bingo.
Yes.
And I guess that's a good closing statement. We will move on to our next segment, which is probably everybody's favorite. I mean, not really, but it's the one that directly affects our lives the most.
Right.
Wealth inequality. And I just want to point out that I'm still flaunting Occupy slogans here. We are the 99%. Because, we might be a decade after Occupy, but damn it, it still applies.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the first thing isn't necessarily a current events thing. It's actually Eugene Debs' essay. I'm not going to read the whole essay, don't worry. Just the first 5 paragraphs or so to kind of give you an idea what he's saying in this, because I think it's an important conversation to have. So in a 1911 essay, socialist Eugene Debs excoriated the U.S. Constitution as an autocratic and reactionary document written by aristocrats and in every sense a denial of democracy. The Convention of 1787 held in Philadelphia, which framed the Constitution of the United States and adopted that instrument on September 17 of that year, consisted exclusively of what Alexander Hamilton, one of its dominating spirits, called the wealthy, the well-born, and the great. There was no working man present to degrade its councils. Labor was held in contempt, unfit to have a seat among the aristocrats who composed that body and controlled its deliberations. Neither was there a woman among the delegates to ruffle the dignity of the grave and revered fathers of the Constitution. It was a place for the wise and mighty, and for powdered wigs, velvet knee breeches, silk stockings, and silver shoe buckles. The democratic spirit so defiantly expressed in the Declaration of Independence, and which had sustained the patriots during the dark days of the Revolutionary War, had largely subsided, and nothing was further from the purpose of the delegates than the government that they had met to establish should be controlled by the people. As Professor J. Allen Smith remarks in his Spirit of American Government, the Constitution itself furnishes efficient evidence of that fact. It is not in any sense a democratic instrument, but in every sense a denial of democracy. The Declaration of Independence had been democratic and revolutionary. The Constitution, however, was autocratic and reactionary. Only 6 of the 56 signers of the Declaration had a hand in framing the Constitution. Patrick Henry, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson, and Samuel Adams were not even in the convention. Patrick Henry openly denounced it. Woodrow Wilson was right in declaring that the government was established upon the initiative and primary in the interest of the mercantile and wealthy classes, and that it had been urged to adoption by a minority under concerted and aggressive leadership of able men representing the ruling class. And he struck the keynote of the Constitution when he said that the convention that it framed was backed by the conscious solidarity of material interest. So basically, I just want to say that Debs was a badass. He, for those who don't know, we're eventually going to do a dive-in piece on him. He was involved in the formation of the IWW back in 1905, I think it was. He was involved with organizing strikes before then. And he ran 2 presidential runs, one in a 4-way race while he was in prison. Eugene Debs was a fucking badass. So I'm going to put the link to this article, which is from Jacobin Magazine, into the comments, and I'm sure Dean's going to put it in the show notes. But I wanted to put this link in the comments so everybody can read the full essay at their leisure. Natalie says, Bernie Sanders, I think Debs was a source of inspiration for him in forming Bernie's beliefs earlier. I would almost guarantee that, honestly. I mean, Debs was one of the few, well, maybe not few, but one of the most well-known outspoken socialists, and that's why they threw him in prison.
Your ideas are too revolutionary. Can't have that.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we kind of talked about one of his speeches that got him thrown in prison. And, well, I mean, if they charged Eugene V. Debs with sedition for the words that he spoke, I cannot believe that they cannot throw Donald Trump in prison for actually inciting violence.
Right. Right, it is. And, you know, that was only Senate hearings where he was acquitted. He hasn't been acquitted as a criminal. The criminal charges are yet to come.
Oh, well, I mean, they could have, they were supposed to be charging him as a criminal in the Senate. But yes, he can still be charged as a civilian now that he's out of office. I am trying to share this link, but my computer does not like that I have so many tabs open at once.
I love that.
While I'm live streaming, while having a Zoom meeting.
Right. Asking a lot of that CPU.
Yeah, for sure.
Which link, Rob, I can share?
The article that is linked in the document, the Eugene Debs link, right at the top of the page there on wealth inequality.
No problem.
I actually sent it to the chat. That's as far as I could get, though. Anyway, moving on. Our next piece is a stimulus update. Yeah, that's what I was just reading from, Dean.
Okay, that's the one you wanted to show?
Yes.
Got it.
So the next thing is a stimulus update, and I think it's important to note here that we don't have all the answers. It has not been proposed as an actual bill, therefore, there is no text to read. And I'm sure that once the text is up, we're probably going to have about 4 hours to look it over before it gets voted on.
That's true.
Um,
That's very true.
And I think it was very noting. I got this information from CNN, but I didn't find any better information at any other source. So I just wanted to point out that the only things reported on are either A, things that the press felt like reporting on, or the House committees only gave part of the picture to the media. Either way, it's a problem, and either way, it needs to be addressed. So for the first line in the article, I actually quoted because I wanted to make fun of it. House Democrats were busy last week advancing a wide range of coronavirus relief provisions, all part of President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package. House Democrats were busy, but they still haven't brought Medicare for all to a floor vote.
No.
They weren't very fucking busy. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear excuses for them either. Natalie said, and at least 800 pages. Yes, absolutely. This coming week, the House Budget Committee will assemble a final bill. That's when we'll have the text to read, based off the measures approved by at least 9 committees. Most of them, but not all, adhere closely to what Biden outlined in his proposal last month. The House bill would provide direct payments worth up to $1,400 per person. A family of 4 could receive up to $5,600. Individuals earning less than $75,000 a year and married couples earning less than $150,000 would be sent the full amount. So the means testing is still there, surprise. The House bill would extend 2 key pandemic unemployment programs through August 29th. Only through August? I mean, really? Why are we doing this every 6 weeks as a huge, almost $2 trillion package? This is obscene. It would also increase the federal weekly boost to $400 from the current $300 and continue it for the same time period. The House plan would extend the 15% increase in food stamp benefits through September instead of having it expire at the end of June. It also contains $880 million for the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, known as WIC. Biden called for investing $3 billion in the program. So, the House Democrats are being flanked from the left by Joe Biden, who is being flanked from the left by Mitt Romney, who is opposing equality legislation. How is this happening?
Oh, it's a clusterfuck of what the fuck.
Yeah. It would allow states to continue the pandemic EBT, which provides families whose children's schools are closed with funding to replace free and reduced price meals the kids would have received through the summer. The legislation would send roughly $19.1 billion to state and local governments to cover back rent assistance, and utilities for at-risk, low-income households with unemployed members, according to the Congressional Budget Office. It would also give about $10 billion to states and tribes to provide mortgage payment assistance and other financial help to homeowners affected by the pandemic. And it would provide a total of $11 billion to provide rental assistance, Jesus Christ, homeless services and support, housing counseling, and mortgage support. The House bill would expand the child tax credit to $3,600 for children under 6 and $3,000 for children under 18. It would also become fully refundable, so more low-income parents could take advantage of it. Plus, families could receive payments monthly rather than a lump sum once a year, which would make it easier for them to pay the bills. That's actually not a half bad idea, but it's still not enough. The bill would provide nearly $130 billion to K through 12 schools to help students return to the classroom. Students would be allowed to use the money to update their I don't know why I said students. Schools would be allowed to use the money to update their ventilation systems, reduce class sizes to help implement social distancing, buy PPE, and hire support staff. It would require that schools use at least 20% of the money to address learning loss by providing extended days or summer school, for example. A bill would make federal premium subsidies for the Affordable Care Act policies more generous and would eliminate the maximum income cap for 2 years. Enrollees would pay no more than 8.5% of their income towards coverage, drawn down from nearly 10% now. Also, those earning more than the current cap of 400% of the federal poverty level, about $51,000 for an individual, would become eligible for help. If that passes, that would actually help me. So that's cool. Last slide on this one, thankfully. The House legislation would provide $350 billion to state and local governments as well as tribes and territories. Additional assistance to states has been among the most controversial elements of the rescue packages, with Democrats looking to add $150 billion in the March legislation and Republicans resisting such efforts. The December package ultimately dropped an initial call to include $160 billion. The House bill provides $14 billion for vaccines, $46 billion for testing, contact tracing, and mitigation, and $7.6 billion to hire 100,000 public health workers to support coronavirus response. It would also invest $25 billion in addressing health disparities and protecting vulnerable populations. The president's plan called for investing $20 billion in a national vaccination program. It would also fund the hiring of 100,000 public health workers, nearly tripling the community health workforce. The legislation would increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025 in stages. So I will say the House was a little bit left to I mean, they shaved a year off of Biden's plan, right? It was a 5-year plan, and now it's a 4-year plan. Still not enough. We need 15 an hour now, tied to inflation. But here's the plus side, the silver lining, if you will. It would also guarantee that tipped workers, youth workers, and workers with disabilities are paid the full federal minimum wage.
Good.
That's it.
The first stimulus, when we got it in Pennsylvania, we got around $170 million to help small businesses, to help mortgage, rent, and everything. And I believe only around 40 million actually went to the people that needed it, since the state made it so difficult for people to apply for that money. 130 million went to corrections, jails and such. And now, don't get me wrong, I know the jails need the money, but they made it so difficult for an average person to be able to apply to help out with rent, mortgage, or even small businesses. I know in my local town, we've lost over a dozen small businesses because, hair salons and places such as that, because our local government and PA made it so difficult for them to obtain funds that were allocated to the people.
Funding for the jails should have been separate. That money should have gone to the people.
Yeah.
Every person for themselves. Sorry.
So that means that no, you're totally right, Dean. Every person for themselves, because I mean, even local government refuses to work with the people. So it is every person for themselves. When you're rich, you can hire these lawyers to obtain funds for your business or for your rent or for your mortgage. Then it's fine. But when you are poor and unable to understand these long resumes and to hire lawyers to decipher it for you, then who cares for you, right? Who cares for the poor? Because obviously the government, whether it be local or whether it be federal, they don't.
So in the comments, Natalie said the minimum wage should be at least 20 to 23, not 15. Bernie was since 2012 fighting for 15 an hour, 11 years ago. Wouldn't that be 9 years ago? But either way, though, the point is that this fight has been going on for too damn long. And so I just, for a reference here, want to bring up Howie Hawkins' webpage. I'm going to screen share for a second. And I'm going to talk about the minimum wage that the Green Party is pushing. Because the Green Party was pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage in like what, 2004, 2008, somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Right. At this point, it's already too little too late, let alone waiting around
Yeah.
another 4 or 5 years for it to be implemented. It's fucking ridiculous. Hell, looking at even what they consider to be poverty level wages is fucking ridiculous, because even that's one of those things you pointed out a moment ago of that 400% of the poverty line, you know, only falling around $50,000. Let that put that really in perspective, that a quarter of that is what they consider poverty level wages for one person. And it's fucking impossible to survive on. They're literally basically making enough money to have a house and a vehicle and food on the table, you know, barely. 400% of that, you know, and it's like, how is survival somehow 4 times the amount of poverty? No, like anything below survival is poverty. You're still living in poverty conditions if you are making anything less than what is necessary for basic life needs. We really need to change the perspective on that, because it's so fucked. People don't even realize, they think that things like, you know, $100,000 a year salary is, you know, you're doing really fucking good. No, you're at the bottom of the middle class. You're doing okay. You're just slightly more than surviving as far as the cost of living goes today. And most people in this country make around 50 to 60,000. So when that is the average, in comparison to just how many millionaires and billionaires we have, just think then how many people are so far below that in the actual poverty zone to drag the average down to that.
Correct. Hey guys, I'm gonna drop. I got a very early start, so I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
Yep.
All
But
good?
thank you. I don't not recommend that we end. I just the end has come for me. But
That's
as ever,
understandable.
it was I have a very early morning start. So, but it's a pleasure, and I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate all of you who faithfully listen. We'll see you again Monday.
We appreciate you, Dean.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Emily says good night, Dean.
Night.
So I wanted to take a minute, as we're talking about the minimum wage anyway, to talk about how it's nowhere near enough, and that I completely agree with Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker on the need for the Economic Bill of Rights. It was proposed back in the 40s by FDR. Of course, when the Green Party adopted it, they made some changes to it, but it still includes a job guarantee. It still includes a guaranteed minimum income above poverty. So we are talking about a UBI here. They are advocating for a $20 an hour minimum wage, which I actually thought was 25, but either way, still, as always, ahead of the Democrats. Affordable housing for all through universal rent control and public housing. Medicare for all expanded out into a community-controlled national health service. Lifelong free public education, pre-K through college, that includes trade schools, and a secure retirement with double Social Security benefits. We all know that Social Security isn't enough to live on, and they look to change that.
You got more and more people, elderly people people working at fast food jobs because they can't afford their medications.
Yeah, and it's despicable. And that's a perfect foray into our next segment, which is left unity. Actually, I believe this is the last one. It's getting to be about that time. So right now, the left unity gathering, as shown on the Howie Hawkins website, these are the groups that endorsed him in his 2020 run with Angela Walker. There's not a whole lot of DSA groups on here, and we need to see more. And we talked about that already. But what we didn't talk about, even though somebody brought it up in the comments last time, is where is the Party for Socialism and Liberation on that list? And we did get asked about that last week, and I did not answer it because I didn't have a good enough answer at the time. So today I did a little bit of research into the PSL, and I'm going to start off with their About page. The Party for Socialism and Liberation believes that the only solution to the deepening crisis of capitalism is the socialist transformation of society. Driven by an insatiable appetite for ever greater profits regardless of social cost, capitalism is on a collision course with the people of the world and the planet itself. Imperialist war, deepening unemployment and poverty, deteriorating healthcare, housing, and education, racism, discrimination and violence based on gender and sexual orientation, environmental destruction, all are inevitable products of the capitalist system itself. The idea that the capitalist grip on society and their increasingly repressive state can be abolished through any means other than a revolutionary overturn is an illusion. Equally unrealistic are reformist hopes for a kinder, gentler capitalism, or solutions based on economic decentralization or small group autonomy. Meeting the needs of the more than 6.5 billion people who inhabit the planet today is impossible without large-scale agriculture and industry and economic planning. There are really only two choices for humanity today: an increasingly destructive capitalism or socialism. And I tend to agree with basically everything that they just said. So I think that the reason that they're not on the left unity list is because they view reformist hopes for a kinder, gentler capitalism as an illusion, essentially. But and I don't disagree with that. I have those exact same concerns, but the difference is I'm going to advocate for anything that will improve the material conditions for the average citizen. So that being said, they're running people for office even though they know that the electoral system is at this point non-functioning. So if they're running people for office anyway, why aren't they getting on the same boat? Yeah, that's what I want to know. And they are an interesting party. According to Wikipedia, they were formed in the United States in 2004. I got a comment from Natalie, so I'm going to read that real quick before I dive into the Wikipedia page. Natalie said, whoever, and we can take a good guess to who, taught the employers and the retirement to be linked to a stock market was not for the majority of us. Yeah, absolutely. We need to bring back old school pensions. I completely agree that 401ks are not a realistic form of retirement. Back to the PSL, though. Sorry about that. PSL is a Marxist party formed in the U.S. in 2004. Its members are active in a wide range of movements, including the labor, anti-war, immigrants' rights, women's rights, and anti-police brutality movements. It has been closely tied to the Answer coalition throughout its existence. I'm not sure who they are, but PSL founder Brian Becker is Answer's national coordinator. Other prominent members include Gloria La Riva, she was their presidential candidate this year, Michael Preisner, and Eugene Puryear. The PSL ran Gloria La Riva and Sunil Freeman in the 2020 United States presidential election. Originally, Leonard Peltier was the vice presidential nominee, but he was forced to withdraw for health reasons. Leonard Peltier is a Native American political prisoner and a socialist who has been in prison since the late 70s, I think. Unfortunately, this year he's been riddled with health issues while in prison, and that's part of their platform is releasing all political prisoners. And I mean, he was tried and convicted, but it was not by a jury of his peers. And since he was convicted, there's been a lot of questions thrown on the evidence, the so-called evidence that they had. And I think that his case at the very least needs revisiting. But I do think that he should, while suffering from cancer in prison, be able to get out and get some access to some real fucking medicine. Anyway, so this is probably the most important part of what I'm going to read about the Party for Socialism and Liberation today. The party's goal is to lead a revolution paving the way towards socialism, under which a new government of working people would be formed. The PSL proposes many radical changes to be implemented by this government. In the political sphere, all elected representatives should be recallable, securing freedom of speech for the working class, except in the cases of xenophobia or bigotry, and to prevent reestablishment of the capitalist system, and the elimination of corporate influence from politics. The party's program states, achieving fully developed socialism, a goal that has not been yet achieved anywhere, will open the way to communism and the end of class society. So, I mean, Wikipedia called them a Marxist party, but I think it's clear from reading a little bit about their platform that they are more specifically Marxist-Leninists. And let's not negate that. The only revolutions that have succeeded in taking control of a state and using it for the people are Marxist-Leninists. I'm not necessarily saying that a revolution in the same style as Lenin's would work. And obviously, we need to be more mindful of the government that they create, because there have been issues with every so-called communist regime. But that doesn't mean it has to be that way.
Right. You can have authoritarianism with any type of financial system. It's the authoritarianism that's the problem.
Right. Exactly.
Which, in my eyes, means that none of those were ever really true communist states, because if you're actually practicing communism, you are self-governing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think left unity is such an important thing. You know, Marxists believe in using the state to dissolve the state, and anarchists believe in using autonomous power to dissolve the state. And Mao preached both. He called it the dual power system. Obviously, Mao didn't follow his own teachings and his own ruling, but
right.
If you actually read the Little Red Book, he had a lot of great ideas that were never implemented in China. But I guess that's enough about going down that rabbit hole. If you want to learn more about leftist ideologies in general, including debates between specific types of leftists or interviews about historical events on the left, Revolutionary Left Radio, I think, is probably the best source I can give you at this point. They dive deep on a lot of different issues, and I've learned a lot from them. Natalie said, yes, none were true communism and ended up with dictatorships. Exactly. The thing is that we can learn from that and move forward. Right. That doesn't mean that the ideology was to blame. That means that the people that got power and the structures that were in place were not sufficient.
Right. That power was not even distributed amongst the people like it should have been. And yes, fire away.
Are we going to eventually talk about the Venus Project?
Yes, we need to. It needs to be its own episode, honestly, but yes. Okay.
I was just wondering. I mean, that's a really good project. I believe in it, and I believe that could work. And that is definitely socialism, I believe. I mean, so that's all I wanted to say.
something that needs to be added to that parking lot list of things that each need their own episode, because that is quite the rabbit hole to dig into.
Yes, it is. Anyway, these are our social media channels. I encourage everybody to check us out. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Probably this coming week, we'll actually start using Instagram. And we hope to have some short TikTok clips to have up soon. I honestly don't know if we're going to stick with Likey or not. I hate the notifications I get from it, and there's not much politically going on there. So that might end up coming off of our list by next week. But the rest we should be branching out into this coming week. So watch for us on Instagram. Watch for us on YouTube. We're already there. We're actually streaming on YouTube as well right now. We have the support group, and the mutual aid group needs to get added onto this, and we have the page, obviously. And then we have our website, which we also should be branching out into using more this coming week. That is for wearemany.org. And Natalie Austin said the Venus Project. If you are not familiar, I believe it's venusproject.org, or you can just Google Venus Project. There is a lot of...
They have YouTube.
Yeah, they have YouTube, exactly. But I believe that brings us to the end of...
I would like to plug something real quick, if I may.
Yeah.
Comrades Anti-Fascist Facebook group is back. If you have been a member or if you want to be a member, please look us up. All comrades are welcome. I appreciate it. And great group, great people that administrate it. We're actually going to make Rob a moderator so he can post stuff about mutual aid on that group. That's all. I appreciate you all.
Appreciate you too, man. Please invite me to that group. I would love to join it.
I will, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
When we were strong, we had close to 5,000 members, and then they shut us down, of course, but we're back now. So
That's what's up.
I'm happy that we're back. I mean, are you a part of the other group we have too? The March Revolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then that one.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm in there in both accounts, but I think my Zen Motherfucker account is in that group.
Okay. Yeah, I created that group during the start of this pandemic because BLM started and everything, and I thought it would be a good idea if we could try to organize marches and protests to let people know and try to give people a chance to promote marches and protests that they were trying to come to flourish. So
Right.
I don't.
Amplify those voices.
There is no leader in that group. No leader in that group. We're all the administrators and all the people in that group have an equal say, and I believe that's how it should be done. So
Agreed. Absolutely.
I think Rob left us for a second.
Possibly.
Makes you think of.
Yeah, that makes me think of back in Occupy with the General Assemblies. One person, one vote.
Yes. And that's
people kept asking who our leader was, and we would point at Rob's dog. Revolution, say Occupuppy. The dog is our leader. We follow what he says.
So Natalie asked for a link to the Facebook group. If my computer will cooperate, I'll drop that in the comments before we end this. But that seems to be an if.
And I'll make sure I share the groups that I've mentioned from Facebook for We Are Many, so people can find them there.
Okay, I have the link. Now I got to get to the video.
My
Rob, I've
earbuds are
been wanting to
beeping
say
at me.
this. Okay.
I just wanted to say goodnight before my shit dies, because you might not be able to hear me on the other mic.
Peace.
But I appreciate you guys. I love you. Peace. And good night.
All right. Well, the link is in the comments. And with that, I guess it's time to wrap it up. We're sitting at a long time. 2 hours and 10 minutes? No, 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh man.
Okay. So we got a little
I'm sorry.
shorter. Anyway, I hope everybody has
I like
a
your shirt, Rob.
Oh, thanks. I hope everybody has a wonderful night and solidarity.
Indeed.
Peace, guys.